Non-revenue water. Another round of applause.
Good morning. Tusalimiane hewani. Good to see all of you. It's a journey that today we seek to celebrate after very many years. Non-revenue has troubled our country for the last 20 years. I think in the last 20 years when I started getting involved with the water sector, the only thing that has remained constant has been NRW. Last year when we had our international conference, out of the 4 sub-themes, the one that came out very strongly is that without us sorting out the issue of NRW, we are going to have a problem. 2 weeks ago, WASREB the regulator released their 18th edition of the impact report. NRW has increased from 44 to 48. We're in a deep sea, but after this conference, we want to get a ship that is going to take us out of that big ocean and take us to shore. We believe the commitment of each and every one of us that is seated here is what is going to turn around NRW from the high numbers that we have to where we think we should go, global levels of around 25%. It's a long journey, but we must start it. We must start it. So why this conference? We want to make this conference not just as a talking shop. We want this conference to be different. We want to have a conference that is going to challenge ideas that exist, bring in new technologies that probably never existed, bring in new innovations that are there, are not there, or will be there, and at the same time, introduce new things. And one of the biggest opportunities we've had is to partner with a company called Acumen Group. You must have seen it, must have seen everywhere we have Acumen, and you could be asking, who are these people? I'll take a few minutes just to talk about them. Acumen Group is a group that is based in South Africa, and for very many years I've been dealing with satellite-based engineering innovations. And they have systems that can be able to map up to 10 meters below the surface and give you what you have in your infrastructure. Basically, they're doing an MRI of your body. So they're doing an MRI of what we have, our body structure in terms of the water sector. And they're going to take us through, even as we continue, and show us what is it that they have. Along that journey, we also discover that there are other people. There are people who are using seals, which are automated, just to put on your meters and be able to tell you that if you steal, we know after stealing where to get you. We have also financial solutions. Solutions that are telling us that in case you have pipe leaks and you don't have an extra shilling, there's a way we can get you money to get you new pipes. Those and among many others are what we are looking for. And that's why this conference is different, not just to talk, but now time has come for us to walk. We want to treat this conference different from big political rhetoric and say, can we use our technical expertise, our technical knowledge, our technical know-how? Can you use the experiences of your years, the experience of the future, and be able to concoct something, whichever mongrel it will be, but will it be able to give us a solution for where we are going? That's the essence of this conference, and that's what we want to do at the end of this conference, when we have our resolutions on Friday, midday, before we close. I want to take this early opportunity to thank every one of you. It's been immensely surprising with the huge numbers that we have received. And yesterday, I want to apologize. We had some basic issues with registration, because if you register and you don't pay, then you can't move. And if you pay and you don't register, you also can't move. Because if you look at your badge, we've done something very interesting this year. All the information you need is just a click away from your phone. So at the back of your badge and the front of your badge, it has all your data. So all you need is to take your camera and scan, including your mail cards. All that is what we call new technology. And we are taking this sector to the next level. Situpige makofi hapo kidogo. Lastly, we want to thank the ministry immensely, Engineer Lima. I want to say this when the PS and the CS is here, but you are the senior most. The ministry has been immensely supportive to us. Every time we want to meet them, they met us on short notice, and they've been immensely supportive, even getting us to the upper level. And today we have a few special guests that will be joining us much later. So all I wanted to say is that after this, we'll try and run the program very fast so that we do not inconvenience the ones that are going to come much later. But as you can see from our program, we made it sure that we do all our business and any other business comes after. So if any other business does not happen, then our business has already happened. Tomorrow is a full day for us, and we want to go the nitty-gritties. I would want to encourage you to do two things in this conference. It's only 2 days. One, maximum concentration. Go to the exhibitions where you'll be having your tea, and you'll be amazed at how many things you can be able to learn from this. Number two, we asked for 25 case studies and abstract. We got 87. 87. The banks that are here, it's an opportunity for you to see the case studies that are being showcased. And let's get away of funding some of these experiments. Two months ago, a young man from Kenya won a case against Safaricom. And he was awarded over 1.4 billion shillings and 0.5% of every income that will come from a technological innovation that he created. Do we have young people in the watch sector that can get us out of the rut technologically? Do we have them? Do we have them? We have them. And it's time for us to take them to that next level. When we come back for next year's international conference, we must have achieved something. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my singular duty to welcome you. We'll go straight away into the program, and then we will have further discussion after lunch. Thank you. God bless you. Enjoy your day.
Asante sana. A big round of applause for Anthony Njaramba, Chief Executive Officer of the Water and Sanitation Providers Association. On the interest of time, I will not get up on stage. I want to introduce our first keynote speaker this morning, a man who hardly needs any introduction. He is the Water Secretary in the Ministry of Water and Sanitation, and man that has consistently challenged the sector to adopt solutions that go beyond today's problems. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Engineer Sao Alima, the Water Secretary.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Colleagues, dear participants, good morning. Yeah, I want to make a presentation, the first presentation this morning on non-revenue water and how we can introduce it. I agree with Anthony that we have talked and talked and talked. Now it is time for action. It's time for action. And that's why my presentation is just on a case study on what has happened in Meru. What has happened in Meru. A real practical presentation. I had a choice of making Meru, I had a choice of making Tokyo, I had a choice of making another city called Nagoya, areas where I've studied the movement of non-revenue water. So I brought it locally so that you can see how non-revenue water has done in this country and particularly in Meru. So here we go. So the non-revenue water has remained very high in Kenya. You can see the red curve. That is non-revenue water for the last 20 years. And you can see the sector benchmark. So they are almost running in parallel. They are almost running in parallel. In fact, they are in parallel for the last 20 years. When we say we want to move it to 25, it has remained very high. You can see where we were in 2006 and 2007, and where the sector benchmark has remained. So for the last 20 years, we are just from 41 to 48. Yeah? We are not moving. Yet, we keep on asking, doing workshops. I was asking where Anthony Ambugo is. I used to call him Professor of Workshops or non-revenue water. Yeah, I used to call him as a colleague that, Anthony, you know, you have become a professor of workshops, but you are not moving. Yeah. It's not changing. Yeah. I think there's a slide that was. Yeah, in terms of coverage, colleagues, dear participants, you can see that we have been increasing coverage. Coverage was low in 2005, 2006. It was just 38%. But we have gone to 72% for regulated utilities. And we are expecting, if you add rural and urban, we are about 76%. But what has happened? We have real and significant progress in terms of infrastructure development. And that's why we have reached that level. But non-revenue water has not improved. Yeah? Non-revenue water has remained stagnant. Yet we invest, yet we increase coverage, but non-revenue water has defeated the Kenyan people. You can see the production has grown by 0.9%, but build volume is only 2.3%. Yet the production is going up, but what you build is only growing by 2.3%. So we build bigger infrastructure, but inefficiency is there when it comes to management our water supplies, our water systems. So this is the one I started with. What is wrong with this thing? Yeah. So this is the case of Meru now. Case study of Meru, starting point 2001 up to now. You can see when they started in 2001, what was happening in Meru. They had a non-revenue water of 70%, which means they were billing only 30%. So water was produced, but reaching only a few customers. They didn't have any baseline data. They didn't know even how much they were losing exactly, but it was estimated at 70%. There was no metering, only 100 meters, 100 customers out of 2,750 customers, meters were operational. Most of them were billed, most customers were billed on flat rate. When it comes to repair works, they were using rubber bands. You can see. They were using rubber bands to stop leakage. They didn't have as-built drawings. So they were trying to use line patrollers, a technology that expired many years ago. The department were working in silos. The finance department, technical department, they were all working in silos. They didn't have pressure management. Yeah? Pressure management, zones were not identified. Pressure reducing valves were not there. The DMS structures were not there. High pressure drove constant burst along the systems. But then in 2002, Meru received a grant aid from Japan of 890 million to rehabilitate Meru water supply system and increasing the supply from 4,480 to 6,730. So when this project ended, the bursts were too much in Meru. Too much bursts were there in Meru. So when they took over operations to reduce non-revenue, MEWAS took over on 1st July, and today is 1st July, I believe most of you will decide to take action. They had a target of raising non-revenue water from 70 to 30 in 4 years. In 4 years. Yeah? The science of non-revenue water, so long as it's above 35, you can reduce it to the minimum to about 30% within the shortest possible, because it just requires commitment and action. Yeah? So, parallel today, there are so many utilities that are still doing what Meru was doing in 2000. There are so many utilities, there are so many water service providers that they are still stuck here. They still have high non-revenue water, they don't have adequate meters, they are still using rubber bands, they don't have as-built drawing, they are still working in silos, and they still don't reduce pressure. So at 48%, Kenya is still where Meru was in the year 2000. Yeah. So the turnaround for Meru, yeah, you can see from 68 or 70% to 25% by the year 2006. So what changed? Was it the grant aid? No. The people decided to work. The people, the staff decided to work. They decided to take action. Yeah. And by 2016, they were already 17%. Do you have a team from Meru here? Meru team? But you can see, you can see the Meru reduction from close to 68 to to about 30% in 4 years. In fact, 25%. And you can see the national average. It remains high. The sector benchmark, very low. It's only Meru that is crossing the sector benchmark. And I think it is Meru, Nyeri, and which one? Embu at one time was also going here. But they went back to the, yeah? Yeah. Malindi one time went up to 70%. But right now, 40-something%. Why is this thing not working? Yes. Yes. So you can see, how did they make it? How did Meru make it? The first one was to do monthly water balance. Monthly water balance was introduced. Every month, they know how much has been produced, how much is being billed, how much is lost, and where it is lost. So that by 2003, and those ideas were not there at the beginning. So by doing that, by doing water balance, that you know how much you produce, how much you lose, and where you lose it, which means leak identification, why you lose it, and what is the strategy to prevent the loss. Then they went into eight district metered areas. 8 district meters areas, zone 1 to zone 8. Yeah? So they divided the system into zones. So they were handling zone by zone, because each zone is unique. Each zone has got different characteristics, so that they know how much is going to that zone. Is that zone metered? What are they losing in that zone? So they isolated the system into zones. Then they went into active leak detection. Yeah? So that they locate the leak. They repair the leak. Yeah? Because the volume, and they repair it within time, because the volume of water lost is directly proportional to time. Yeah. And then the pressure management was introduced. I will talk about the pressure management and leak in just the next slide. And then they also did commercial loss control by having flat rates were eliminated, 100% metering rolled out. Saddle clubs replaced T's, yeah? And meters were read twice a day. You can see total commitment here. Meters are being read twice a day. Yeah? Illegal connections were regularized. And then they went to the whole organization commitment. So the finance department, the procurement department, the technical department are working together. Yeah. Not in silos. They are working together as an organization because they have known this is our common problem. This is our common enemy. Technical department cannot fight alone. Let's all fight it. So utilities that are still working in silos, you need to think about this thing as an all organization commitment. Yeah, I want to talk about the pressure. And this is the power equation for pressure, recognized by International Water Association. That pressure, the volume of leakage is exponentially proportional to the pressure. The higher the pressure, the more leakage. So you can see this equation. If you put N1, the exponential, the constant, it varies. When pressure is 0, it also tends to 0. The next one is the constant of proportionality. You can see 1.083. That is a constant of proportionality. That constant of proportionality depends on the type of pipe. It depends on the age of the pipe. It depends on the area of the orifice, the area that is releasing the water. So if you have got old system, then that component goes up. In fact, it can go up to 45. So if it can go up to 45, then the pressure is also exponentially proportional to the leakage. When the pressure is high, then you have a lot of leakage. You have a lot of leakage. If the pressure is low, you have a lot of leakage. If you have 0 pressure, that's another problem, because we will not even know where the leakage are. Yeah. So the MERU, for the MERU, you can see the N, for this study, the N was 1.09. No, 0.19. And then the K was 1.083. Yeah. So the policy implication, reduce pressure by 10%. You will reduce a measurable amount of leakage, particularly the schemes that are coming from Mount Kenya, because your pressures are very high. So you must work on pressure management. You must work on pressure reducing valve for each zone, and you must manage your pressure. If you don't manage your pressure, then you will fall into this equation. The equation will control you. And then when do you stop leakage control measures? You only stop it when you measure the economical level of leakage. You can see the straight curve, which is the cost of water. And then this other curve, which is the cost of leakage control. The cost of leakage control is what you put in to go and look for leakage. What is the staff salary? What is the fuel cost? Because we are using vehicles. Yeah. When you sum up that and you have this curve, and then you plot the upper curve, which is total cost, and you will see that the total cost is minimum at the economical level of leakage. Now, MERU, I will also see that shortly. MERU, when you analyze their data, you realize the economical level of leakage is around 10 to 14%. Because they have not controlled the cost of leakage control. If you control it and the cost of water production, then you realize that your economical level of leakage can come up to around 4%, 4 or 5%. Then you maintain it there. You keep it there. For years, you keep it there. Wow. Okay, Paula. So these are the 4 known strategies. The 4 known strategies that utilities have used all over the world. I think this was also implied in Meru to control leakage, to reduce non-revenue water. I've mentioned pressure management. You must manage the pressure. You must have leakage, active leakage control. You must have active leakage control. You must have your non-revenue water reduction plans. And then you implement that plan. Yeah. Then you must have speed and quality of repair works on this other side. Speed and quality of repair. When the leak is reported, when leak is identified, how long do you take to repair it? And in fact, in Meru, they put a KPI. How long should it take us to repair the leak? Yeah? The team from Nairobi, because we live in Nairobi, sometimes I see a leak, I call the MD. The leak is here. The next day, the leak has not been repaired. But the current MD, I want to thank you because you move very fast. The following day, the leak is still there. Even sewage. Yeah? I call, the sewage is pouring here. Yeah? The sector's players also text me. When Wananchi also text, and then leakage is, sewage is pouring here. The next day it is still there. The next day it is still there. The next day it is still there. Do they have KPI? Meru made it a KPI. They pride in repairing the leak faster. Yeah. And that is an indicator of the team that is committed. That when they repair it within about few hours, they are happy. Yeah. They are happy they have done it. They are happy they have succeeded. Then we must also have asset management. You must know when the pipes were installed. At what age will you replace them? Because you cannot replace the whole system at a go, but you can be replacing as they age. You can also be replacing the meter. In fact, each utility should have a meter replacement policy, that after 8 years, the meter is removed, is replaced. Yeah. Because if you don't do that, it will over-register, it will under-register, it will have challenges. The same to pipe replacement. After how long do we replace our pipes? Asset management. So when we do that, we are actually controlling bursts. We are controlling bursts. Oh. The next one is about when you supply water and the consumption increases, what happens to non-revenue water? You can see this is zone 1 for Meru. Zone 1 for Meru, the upper curve is for water supply. And then the middle one is for consumption. The lower one is for non-revenue water. Yeah? You can see the upper part. The straight line, which means the supply is improving. Supply is improving and the consumption is improving and the non-revenue water is going down. But you can see there's a part there of January and April, which was a wrong approach because the supply, there was a drop in supply of water and non-revenue water also fell. So which means you drop the supply, and non-revenue water has fallen. Does it mean you have made it? No, you have not made it. But there was a good one in August 2024 to 2015, which the supply and consumption both went up, but yet non-revenue water still fall. That is the best one. You have the supply going up, and you have got the consumption going up, but non-revenue water is falling. That is the best one. Yeah. So when you produce water and you throw to the pipes that you are controlling non-revenue water, that is not going to help you in the long term. That is not going to help you in the long term. Reduce the non-revenue water, consumption will increase, and supply will increase. And you can see the trend in Meru that confirms this. So there's an equation there, maybe if you can see it. This is equation was for 12 years, that the non-revenue water was going down, and the negative, the variable X is the non-revenue water, and it's got a negative coefficient, which means it's going down. So thank you so much, the team for Meru. There is another zone. This is zone 2 of Meru. Supply increases, but non-revenue water is also increasing. Yeah. Increasing water supply without distribution network. That has happened in Nairobi. Increasing the water supply without improving the distribution network is disastrous. Yeah. Because we'll have more physical losses. Where have Nairobi gone now? Where are they now? They are at what? Nairobi, you are at? Just be proud and say. Just be brave and say. Nairobi, you are at what? At 54. Yeah, according to the impact report, I saw 54. Why 54? Because you have increased the water supply from Northern Collector Tunnel. You have increased Karimenu. Yeah? You have a lot of water, but you have not worked on your distribution. Disastrous. So as you are preparing sources, as you are preparing to bring more water to the city, you also need to start work on distribution. That was an experience in Meru. It is now an experience in Nairobi. Okay. So you can see the performance of these utilities. Just see. See where Nyeri is, very well, 18%. That is the impact report of last week. See where Meru is, very well. But see where Nultres is. Nultres is what? 80%. The team from Nultres, I know you are here. Yeah. You ask yourself, are we really human beings who are working, who understand our systems? I'm saying in a light note, I'm not that we understand our system. And we have a commodity to provide. And we must sell this commodity to the people of Kajiado. So the people of Kajiado can feel us. They can only feel you if you reduce non-revenue water. And check also Kapenguria. 77%. Yeah? 77%. So the people of Kapenguria. Check Bungoma. Check Kericho. I know Kericho team is here. And I know you are doing something. Yeah? Check Isiolo, and check the national coverage. So, utilities, water service providers, we must work individually at our level so that we can have a favorable non-revenue water nationally. Yeah. And at your utilities, you must work as a team. Yeah. This is some observations that we also had for Meru. So Meru has remained low, below the sector benchmark, because you can see the Meru is the blue one. The sector benchmark is the orange one. The national coverage is the red one. You can see, you can compare. So for Meru, for a long time, the non-revenue water is oscillating between 17 to 23% for a long time. Yeah. While the national average has remained between 42 to 48 for a long time. Yeah? So this thing requires sustained performance. You don't work this year and next year you stop. Yeah. You don't work this week on non-revenue water and the following week you stop. It's a continuous commitment. Why it's not working? Yeah, you can see this is now the overall non-revenue water trend with a water balance of 17%. If you have this curve gives you what will be the economical level of leakage. What is the average for utility? Yeah. But this time Meru was producing 2.4, but physical losses was 13.2. Commercial losses was 3.8. And you can see now the system where we have challenges. We have got the service pipes. This is worldwide where we have got a lot of leakage, service pipes. It is not transmission, it's not distributor, it's service pipes that is going to Homestead. And then you can see the mains, you can see the tank, you can see meter errors. The area that you need to focus on most is service pipes. Yeah. So scaling up, what do we need to do? Yeah. Performance-based financing is one key area that we need to consider. And when we consider performance-based financing, I warn the sector, don't go in the way of Malindi. Malindi, when they were with GAF, under performance management, we went up to 7%. Yeah? I think, Michelle, you are here. Where's Michelle? Yeah. And the MD that time was who? Kenya. Kenya is here. They went up to 7%. But now, where are they when the performance-based management expired? Where's Malindi? 40-something%. Yeah. Because they never picked it. The people, the staff did not make it a culture. It's a culture that here we reduce non-revenue water. Here we fight non-revenue water. So, a GAF came, did their thing, achieved, and went. When they were left alone, when they were now being tested, they could not sustain it. So this is what we are talking about now in K-Wash, performance for results. Yeah. We must have okay. Sometimes it moves so fast. We must have non-revenue water management guidelines and handbook, which we developed also for the sector. Yeah. And we must have DMS as standard practice everywhere. Yeah. Digital integration. In fact, it is good to have upscale technology. It is good to upscale technology. Jaramba talked about it. It's good to upscale technology. But if you upscale the technology and the people has not taken it in their heart, the people have not made it a culture that they must reduce non-revenue water, then it will not work for us. Yeah. So the utilities, the first one is the people to make it a culture that they reduce non-revenue water. You must strengthen regulations. Yeah. We must remain creditworthy. And we must comply that non-revenue water, performance non-revenue water, is tied to license renewal. Yeah. It must be a strong KPI. You must invest in system upgrading. So we need to making it stick. We need to comply with the regulatory enforcement so that we have got non-revenue water embedded in licensing. Tariff application, the non-revenue water must be considered. Performance contracting. Yeah. County governments must contract with water utilities on how they are going to maintain or reduce non-revenue water. Data transparency. Yeah. County planning and coordination. All these must be taken into account. Institutional accountability. And then innovation and technology. So if we do all this, we will be able, these are governance and accountability architecture. We will be able to make it in Kenya. Yeah. So this is the 6-stage roadmap for non-revenue water reduction. So where are we? Yeah. Where did we get Meru? You can see stage 1 is to calibrate your meters and eliminate illegal connections. 100% monitoring. Stage 2 is establish DMAs. Stage 3 is to identify and reduce underground leaks. You see, some of us started reducing underground leaks when they have not reduced surface leaks and they have not established DMAs. They are fighting everywhere, firefighting. Stage 4, accelerate pipe replacement. Stage 5, maintain skills. Maintain skills. Sometimes I see people who are very good in non-revenue water leaving our institution and going to the private sector. I've seen that. Maintain those skills. Yeah. And stage 6 is maintain your economical level of leakage if you reach there. You can see utilities like Nairobi is 54%, Kericho 59%, Nultres 80, Thika 39. Thika, you were there, 39. Then Embu 43. Embu was also doing very well. Embu was in the class of Meru and Nyeri. Nyanyuki 36. Nyanyuki is catching up. Nyanyuki and Nakuru are catching up. One time Nakuru was 70%. Yeah. Naivasa, you are doing well. Yeah. Kiambere Mwinga, small utility, 22%. Nyeri, Meru, and others. Yeah. So, county governments have said, have asked what you should do, utilities what you should do, and State Department of Water, this is where we belong. We need to coordinate utilities properly. You know, at one time, I'd got technicians who could go out and monitor the revenue and non-revenue reduction in utilities. We are bringing it back. So that I've got a team that is monitor how you are performing, advising you, capacity building you, so that you reduce non-revenue water together. Development partners align new financing with non-revenue water performance. And in fact, this is a sad story. Every appraisal report that we do to development partners, we say the aim of this project is to reduce non-revenue water. The aim of this project is to do non-revenue water. By the time we are finishing, non-revenue water is still left up there. Yeah, and then this is almost the last slide. For us to provide more water, because Cheruiyot was telling us that per capita consumption is just 26.7 liters per person per day. If you reduce non-revenue water, this thing will go to 49 liters per person per day. So it is us to work. The investment required, SDGs target, let Kenya reach Meru and Nyeri. Let Kenya reach Meru and Nyeri. These are our utilities. The whole utilities, the 96 of them, please let us reach Meru and Nyeri. I think this is almost the last slide. Yeah. So Meru water supply is not a story about Japanese grant aid or a lucky rehabilitation. It's a story about what happens when a utility decides that water loss is unacceptable. Yeah? The sector does not need new ideas. What we need is discipline and application to the scale. What we need is purely discipline and application to scale. We just need to decide that this thing is not good for us. Let's reduce it. So thank you so much. I want us to appreciate the team from Meru and Nyeri. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless you. And together we'll be there.
Well, let's also appreciate Engineer Sao Alima. Please remain on stage. Engineer, please, let's just have you stand back on stage, Engineer. He's referred to as the institutional memory of Kenya's water sector, and it is only fair then that we open up a few questions for the audience. If you have a question for Engineer Sao Alima, please raise your hand. We'll have our ushers bring you a microphone. Any question? After that powerful address, Engineer Sao Alima, they're reminding us that when policy is done right, then utilities become stronger. Any questions for Engineer Sao Alima? If there's no questions, Engineer, I might even ask you to pinpoint someone because we have time for questions. So pinpoint someone for a question. Maybe Malindi.
Yes, Malindi. Can Malindi tell us where they are? The MD Malindi. Because we had achieved it there. Tell us what happened. Why did you drop the ball? Malindi, are you there? How did it get out of your hand? Because that is also a learning. This is a learning for us.
Can we have a hand up, please?
Okay. I will ask.
All right, we have a hand at the very back. At the very back of the room.
Okay, give that person the mic.
Asante sana, and as he gets the microphone, of course, just a reminder, this is supposed to be a very interactive segment, so do feel free to ask questions. We have a keynote speaker coming up right after this and another Q&A session, so do prepare your questions for our keynote speakers this morning. Good sir, please introduce yourself, your organization, and keep your questions very, very brief.
Good morning, and thank you very much. I'm CPA Michael Musila from Mavoko Water. So my concern is what role do our consumers also play in this? Because I think we are also emphasizing on technology, we are emphasizing on the staff, but I think they also have an important role to play, because when they do not get the services, then they also suffer. So I think we should also think of a way of sensitizing them to also get involved. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with you 100%. But consumers will only come in if you involve them. Consumers will only come in if they report to you that there's a leak here and you repair the leak. If they see the leak, they report. The following day, the same leak is still going on. The next day, the same leak is still going on. They are going to leave you alone. They are going to run away from you. You are going to be isolated. What happens in Japan, that they keep on, there's a team at every utility that is receiving calls from consumers. And that team transfers the calls to the technical team and other departments, and then action is taken immediately. That way, they will be very happy to call you. They will be very happy to tell you that you know there's leak here. So in Japan, any water that is on the surface has to be tested whether it has chlorine residue. If it has chlorine residue, then it is treated water. It is from a pipe. It must be followed and be known that where is this leak coming from. But in Kenya, if I can call several times that there's sewage flowing and no action, there's water bursting, there's no action, what will a common person do? Will he have any interest? No. He will say, how watu wachana hao. They are on their own. Okay. The next question.
Any other question? Great. We have a gentleman here.
Hello.
Yes, thank you. My name is Simon Thuo, an old actor in the water sector. Two things. One is the role of governance, and I think that is why it's really important to involve the county governments, because they are the owners of these utilities. And to what extent can they be, given this support, training, understanding, so that when they look at staffing levels, when they look at, operations and so on, they are better able to understand what their role is, instead of just imposing on the utilities in a way, because lack of technical staff is a serious issue.
Yeah.
And when they are recruiting, they just, it's a major problem. The second aspect on which I'll be speaking tomorrow is anticipatory, preemptive, rather than what we do as post-mortem, rather than waiting until the leakages are. The technical staff can look at the network, understand where the leaks are likely to happen, where water is getting lost, even in advance of metering, which is very expensive, and some of the other technological solutions. And what you said about consumers is really critical. That's also another aspect we'll be touching on. Rather than wait until you get the monthly reports, there is a way you can pick information from the users in a continuous way, and that can help prevent and anticipate illegal connections and losses in leakages. Thanks.
Yeah. You see, Engineer Simon, I told you I've been monitoring the performance of Rwanda Revenue Water over time. Immediately after devolution, there was a kink going up. Previously, was achieving 2 percentage points every year. But immediately after devolution, there was a kink going up. And I could mention in the conferences that this is because of devolution. But now, even after that, for very many years, we are now going back. We are going very far. The king started after devolution, so we need to bring it back. The county governments needs to know that when it comes to utilities, they provide professional services. I will tell you very pathetic situations. We went into a utility, and we asked the MD, who is the MD? So and so. What is the qualification? A certificate person. You get it? Yeah? What's the technical manager? Yeah? I'm not saying that is bad. But you also need to recognize education. We need to recognize professionalism. The technical manager, they are at the same level. Yeah? That's why that utility is among the bottom when it comes to non-revenue water. And that's why, again, we came and say, how do we cure this? Let's have regulations. Regulations specifying who is supposed to be the MD, who is supposed to be the technical manager, who is supposed to be the financial manager. So that is already in the regulations. Yeah. So I agree with you fully because you are also experienced in this sector. I found you here, and we are still here together. Okay, any other question? Yes, Naporos.
All right, so let's take one more question, and then we move on to the next segment, please.
Hello, I have the mic here.
All right, let's give the gentleman at the back a chance, and then we'll take this one.
Thank you very much. I've been waiting for this. Engineer, thank you very much for the opportunity and the presentation. And I'd like, first of all, to appreciate the fact that we're recognizing the importance of improving our policies and our guidelines towards managing non-revenue water. However, there's still a very big gap when it comes to communication between the laws and guidelines between functions in the national government. Now, if you look at the Water Act, look at the Roads Act, and other acts that are related to the built environment, as much as the utilities are supposed to be working towards resolving the problems at the supply points, we are forgetting that planning is one big challenge and a gap, because you find that even the way lives, there's a lot of controversy and conflict between the functions within the built environment. And I want to call upon the legislative level and at your level, which is the policy building and developing level, to align these functions, align the laws, and protect the water infrastructure. Today, as we speak, what we see, infrastructure for water and sanitation running within the way lives that we call belonging to the roads, belonging to the railways and all that. I mean, we are missing the point because these are the areas and the sections of supply that we're losing the most in physical loss. So I'd like to call upon you, and I think I need a response on this, that how then are we going to protect this infrastructure and of course make sure that say contractors and the asset developers within these sections of water infrastructure are able to compensate, because this is running down again to tariffs, because we have to accommodate all these losses and the costs of maintaining these systems in the tariffs. So, engineer, I'd like you to pick this one up very strongly and support utilities in ensuring that there is that proper coordination, planning, and also ensuring that there is compensation for certain losses that you experience as a result of asset development within the sector.
I know the challenge. The challenge is with the Irrigation Act, not Road Act, the Roads Act, that says the way live belongs to them. And they can dismantle your pipes at any given time, even without informing you. That's a problem. And we are taking it up. We are taking up so that that section is repealed and bring in a proper coordination. So if you want to do the road, then you must bring all the key players together so that the water will allocate their pipes. The power also like that. The telephone lines also like that. So that is an action that is being taken.
Thank you. Thank you, WS. My name is Sami Naporos, CEO Tanati Waterworks. And having gone round, I realized that what we lack about the WS is not information, it's action. There's actually a lot of information out there. Having interacted with some of the WSPs, the information is out there, what it lacks action. Number two, it's also unfortunately that most of the institutions or WSPs that are the lowest quartile are not even present in the room. So that takes you, they may also not even take seriously the issue of non-revenue water. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with you totally.
We'll take one final question, Engineer, just before. Okay, right. Go ahead.
Can you give Nyeri?
Absolutely. One final question, please.
Thank you, Engineer Alima, for that presentation on Meru. I'm Engineer Peter Kahudu, the MD, Nyeri Water, and also an EC member for the Tana region. And what I would say, because we have equally walked the journey, the solutions are within us. We may look so far and wide, but there's so much which needs to be done within our companies, because there is also the aspect of organizational culture. How do you take non-revenue? Is it embraced by everybody? It is everybody's business. And with that kind of a culture, and with the commitment from the management, and with investment, relevant investment, it is possible to reduce the non-revenue water management. There is the aspect of the bottom-up approach. And this is also related to the DMAs. Even in Nyeri, now that we are scoring around 18%, it doesn't mean that each and every DMA has 18%. In fact, we have even some zones with over 20%. But with the relevant data, consistent data collection, integrity of the data, we are able to analyze data, commit resources, mobilize everybody, even our customers, and it is possible to achieve lower non-revenue water score. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that addition. Thank you so much. It's done? Thank you.
All right, let's appreciate Engineer Saolima one more time. He is the Water Secretary, State Department for Water and Sanitation. Now, our next guest, ladies and gentlemen, reminds us that reducing non-revenue water isn't just an engineering conversation, it's also a financial conversation. Every litre recovered will strengthen a utility's revenue. It will increase confidence for future investment from development partners. And so our next speaker understands that relationship exceptionally well. He has, throughout his career, championed sustainable financing and institutional growth, as well as a long-term investment. Please welcome Dr. Hosea Kimutai Kili, the Group Managing Director and the Chief Executive Officer of CPF Financial Services. Let's give him a round of applause, please.
Obviously, I'm not Dr. Kili. Those of you who know him. Good morning, everyone. All protocols observed. My name is John Mwaniki. I work with Dr. Kili. I will be speaking on this topic of financing. And one of the things that I just want to underline, as Dr. Lina has mentioned, is that indeed the sector is very rich in terms of capacity to finance solutions. So what I'll be giving you is an idea that we are proposing, basically from CPF, because we have a relationship, particularly as it pertains to the larger group. Just to put a disclaimer on this proposal, because I come from a regulated entity of CPF by Capital Markets Authority, and we are required to ensure that we are not marketing solutions, but we're actually having a discussion. Now, I know some of you may have seen this slide of the larger group of CPF, but just to mention that you can see even yourselves as the sector are part of the shareholders of this big group. There is a subsidiary there, CPF Capital and Advisory, which is where I sit, and we help in structuring financial solutions. So let's see what we are going to look through. One of the things is that a few of these slides have been covered by previous speaker, so I'll just flip through them. There is the particular ones that I want us to pay attention to. But maybe to understand, in terms of financial discussion, what I'll be looking at. If you notice, the non-revenue component of about 48%, in terms of financial aggregated, is more than 15 billion Kenya shillings lost on an annual basis. So one may want to sit and wonder, I'm going to look for financing to sort a problem of network or expansion, and I'm losing money. So without even going into complex conversation, there is actually indeed a solution on the table. We just need to knit it nicely and connect the dots. One of the solutions is using technology. And you can see there are various segments of this NRW technology that you can use. And in particular, the analytics using the AI data. And that's what the sponsor Acumen have specialized in. But you cannot fix one and leave the other. And that's one thing about tech that we miss a point. If you want to maximize technology, you must put it end to end. Because the moment you have sections of tech applied and you don't complete, then you have an anticlimax of that investment. So you may have already a smart meter reading, you may have a way of detecting leaks, but if you don't complete the entire ecosystem, then you'll find that you'll be frustrated as the captain of that company. You'll be saying, we invested so much money, we're not getting a proper return. Now, the other thing is that, so what is the challenge? Because we all understand we need technology, we are consumers of technology. Let me give you a couple of them. First, to put a proper technology, one WSP will spend between 500 million and 2 billion, depending on the size of your network. How many of us can afford that in terms of straight financing? It takes a lot of many years trying to walk around and knock doors to development partners to come in and chip in, the JICAs of this town. But by the turnaround time for those requests, it takes a bit of time. Maybe it is time we also look at it from a commercial perspective, in terms of commercial money. How do we get funding from the market? And I have seen the note from the president saying that water is not free. And I think that is what we all know. Water is not free. It costs to deliver that liter of water to any household. And one of the challenges is when the tariffs are being reviewed and you have to do public participation. And the consumers tend to push back, saying, why are you charging us more water? I don't know whether it is the messaging or it is just, the usual drama we have as a people. But I think it is very important to compare. If you want to use a public vehicle, it must be maintained. It must be repaired. If you don't, it will break down and you don't get to your destination. I think that's this conversation, and I think the policy makers need to find a line of how to support WSPs when they are conducting the public participation on tariffs. Because there is always an antagonism, because the users or the consumers feel that we are being overcharged. And yet when we come to reviewing your commercial bankability of your request, we find a problem with that your tariff cannot support the repayment of this investment, which then sends you back to the drawing board. The other one is, of course, if you look at in terms of creditworthiness, how many WSPs can stand the test of saying they actually meet their ability, they have the capacity and the ability to repay whatever investment you give them. So that gives us another challenge that few of you are able to access the market. Now, there are commercial loans given by commercial banks. There are concessional funding given by development partners. There are also capital market solutions that give you long-term financing that is patient financing. And that's an area that I would want us to look at deeply. So what are we proposing? Perhaps it's about time we did a Kenya water infrastructure bond that can be able to finance this solution as a group under the association. Instead of coming to the market individually, you aggregate and you synergize and you come to the market as an industry. And it might be a bit cheaper because if you were to come to the market, we raise a bond, we acquire the technology, of course, then now deploy this technology to individual WSPs based on their participation. Because again, coming to the market, we would want all of you, but sometimes we do appreciate not all are the same pace. So sometimes you go and you say, okay, let's get a minimum of 20, 30 WSPs and you get started. There are those early adopters who are already ready, the others who have to wait and see. And then we discuss on how do I repay? And you're going to repay from what? From the savings you get from reducing these losses. So that's another important thing. Now, what about the structure? If then we agree that that's the way to go, we think, and this is not cast on stone, that you do need the Water Trust Fund because it's the body that is mandated to discuss financing, mobilize resources for financing the water infrastructure. Then, of course, you can't do that without you, the members of WASPA, or without the WSPs participating. Then you do need financial partners. And in this case, what are we talking about? That then we're able to come together and find a workable solution that is very affordable. Now, we do have the Tanga Water bond that was issued in 2004. It was about $20 million. Tanga Water is in Tanzania. So it is possible for municipal or what to call water companies who are owned by county governments to be able to access capital markets, issue a bond, go and fix the problem. So I want you to leave this conference knowing that the capital market exists to sort your problems when you come to it in an organized way. And it will help you to organize this as a sector so that we are able to make use of these opportunities. Now, so what would we be thinking about? Perhaps a 5 to 10 billion shillings worth of a bond would be able to sort out quite substantive WSPs. And you're looking at between 7 and 10 years, can even be more. Interestingly, you don't have to raise the entire amount so that the absorption is also spread out depending on their ability. The most important thing is I want you to notice is that the revenue waterfalls. The revenue waterfalls means that how do we now contribute a portion of our revenue into this one account that then will be used to offset this bond. Now, like I just mentioned, this is coming from the savings of the losses that you're recovering. 8 to 12% is not much, given the ability that it can give you. Now, I want you to imagine, and I hope I don't lose the taste of the conversation. If you look at something like IFMIS, it is implemented nationwide, and it is applied by all counties. If you look at the medical equipment leasing, for example, that was that was done and helped most, hospitals or facilities get this. It was again on a joint aggregated method. So look at the good side of those two examples. Don't look at the bad side of either. And you see that then we can be able to acquire this technology as people and then utilize it individually. If you wait to go for it on your own, you'll be still on this conversation another 10 years. Because then you'll be saying, my revenue surplus is not much. Can't even afford anything more than 50 million. And you need $1 billion plus to be able to implement this. So having said that, then you look at, then you look at how the cash flow mechanics would work. So on one side, we have the WSP revenues, and we have the revenue share. It is going into an escrow account. That escrow account, on the other extreme end, we have the investors, you and I, who will buy that bond. So we give our money through a bond structure that goes to sort out those issues. Then you have the revenues that are collected from the escrow account. They service the entire SPV, and the reserve fund is used to repay the bondholders. So the bondholders get their return, they get back their principal, you get to sort out your problem. And what you are saying that Kenya is here and Meru is there, we can actually leapfrog that in a span of 3 years. I think you are running out of time, isn't it? Maybe this is what you need as the dose prescription to sort that one out in terms of financing. Now, if you look at this capital markets as a story, in the last, give or take 10 months, there has been enough bonds raised in the market. And of worth noting is that there has been over 300% oversubscription. What that means is that, for example, Kenya Mortgage Refinancing Corporation, or KMRC, was looking to raise 9 billion, or 3 billion, they got 9 billion offers. You know? So the capacity and the appetite is there, the ability is there. I think the sector for pension and insurance and commercial banks together control over 3 trillion of money. And where do they invest this money? Mainly in treasury bonds. So, so don't doubt the ability to access the money. It is there. As late as May this year, we had 2 corporate bonds issued back to back. The one for I&M Bank and KMRC. And what did they issue? It attract? I&M attracted 23 billion, and the one looking for 10. So the point is home that the market is ready and it is capable. What we need to agree is the cost. And one of the ways of ensuring that the cost of money is cheaper, all the concessional grants that you are getting, you can actually use them to blend into the cost of money. So that if I'm receiving 100 million as a concessional grant, can I apply it to reduce my interest component of the money? So that then I can use a factor of even or 10 or more. So with my 100 million grant, I can underwrite with it, and then I'm able to go to market and raise my 2 billion, and I implement my technology. So those are the kind of thinking that we need to bring on the table and start asking ourselves, applying ourselves to it. Now, the other one is that you have a partner, CPF. And CPF as a subsidiary, CPF Capital and Advisor, a licensed entity, which is work is to structure and advise on financial solutions, where part of the investment comes from even the pensions that schemes that are managed by CPF and among others in the market. Maybe it will be good, or one would ask, so what do we do? This is what we are going to do. Phase 1, we will do the WASPA board has to adopt this arrangement so that then we can walk the talk, like Anthony had said. We engage with the WSTF and the ministry for purposes of ensuring that we are within the law and the necessary. Then we go to structuring, developing the building, establishing an SPV that will be able to come to market. Then we issue insurance preparation. And finally, we get to go to market and access. So if you look at the timelines, we are now in Q3. So, or we are in Q1 of government year, if you like, but in a calendar year, we are on Q3. So in the next 4 quarters, we can actually be able to raise money, put it on the table, and the technology partner can get started and start deploying this technology. So even your strategic plan, where you are looking at reducing non-revenue water loss, say the next 3 years by every 2 or 3%, you can actually leapfrog and do a quadruple of that percentage. So if you're at 38, you can straight away drop to less than 20 based, if you join this program or based on this finance, because finance is the biggest challenge that we all face. I think, lastly, this is what I would want to leave you with, that 15 billion is being lost annually, and we are talking about going to the market to look for 5 billion. In fact, it's just that it doesn't work like one for one, because then you would say, then in 1 year I can pay off my money. Of course, you go to invest and wait for time to do, deploy the technology, start now realizing the revenue. So it will take a bit of, year 1 you lose 15, maybe year 2 you'll have that, and year 3 like that. So even when you look at a bond of 10 years or 7 years, honestly, you can pay it much earlier, because if you reduce this by 50%, that is 7B, it's more than enough to even pay what you have gone to the market to borrow. Then, of course, we are looking at I'm just showing you the 300% ask or offers. It means money is there. We do need to weave very, very carefully the relationship between WST and the WASPA, because the investor looks for comfort and must have the integrity and be assured that my money is not going to get lost. So we would want that the promoters or the sponsor is that those two institutions, of course, under the support of the ministry, and we need the regulator also to be in the room to understand that these tariffs have an impact on this conversation. And I know we looked at one WSP, and we were looking at the most affordable money they could get to do what they wanted to do in terms of expanding their reservoir. And the tariff one shot, it is quite a big battle. In fact, the public participation will just collapse. But you have to, what do you do? So maybe we should do a sector review, WS, that some of the tariffs that they are operating on, if you were to move sequentially, 10 to 15% increase annually, it will take us 8 years to get to commercially viable. So what do we do? Sometimes you do a re-engineering of the tariffs, and you say we are doing a sector study, we re-engineer it, so that then you bring them at par. Because if Nyeri tariff is good because they did it over time, then you go to the next neighbor whose tariff is at 60. By the time they get to 120, you keep talking about an NRW with them for a long, long time. Yeah, and that's my last slide. In terms of next steps, let's adopt going to market. Let's engage, work with professionals like WS has said, and then form a joint working group for the key stakeholders. Because one of the other things is that if you leave out one stakeholder, whether it's WASDEB, whether it's the ministry, whether it's the WASPA itself or the WSPs, then you get a total collapse because all of us must move in one direction. I hope I have given you something to help you solve this problem. We are happy, able, and willing to work with you if you invite us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mwanike. Please stay on stage as we open up the floor to a few more questions from the audience. 2-3 questions, ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time. If you have a question, please raise your hand. A microphone will be brought to you. Mr. Mwanike, remember, represents CPF, which continues to champion for sustainable financing. That's interesting. They say we're here. We're willing to do it. Work with us. So I hope everybody is going to call them. Please introduce yourself, your organization, and your question, sir.
Good morning. My name is Gabriel Thombe, Nyandarua Water Service, Shaft Service. I'm one of the directors. My question goes straight to you. You have mentioned about the board in the market, and you are aware, I don't know, maybe I need to be guided accordingly. The gross domestic product versus the debt, which has been passed by Parliament, is quite wanting. And the budget which was passed for the water, Ministry of Water, was about 106 billion. And when you say the market money is flooded in the market, and you are aware most of the companies, Kenya market, are already being auctioned because the country debts is about 68%. So how do you advise the conference that you are going to get money to fund the water sector? Thank you.
Let's start with that one.
Now, thank you very much, Gabriel. I was, in the interest of time, I was trying to make my presentation very spot on, but let me get into this conversation of public debt. We are not talking about money that requires sovereign guarantee, which is public debt. It is revenue securitization. Now, what does it mean? I am billing, so I have a revenue stream as a water company. I can take that revenue stream, ring fence it, put it in an SPV or an escrow account, and I say, give me money in advance. I implement my solution, as I bill and I receive this revenue, I can continue defraying off your money in a bit by bit. That is very different. We've done this securitization not once, not twice, in this market, particularly ourselves in CPF, where we are saying we don't require National Treasury or the Ministry of Water to guarantee anything, so that then you don't have a fight with the public debt conversation. I hope that is clear. Yes, very clear. It's doable.
I have one more question that is written on paper by one Daniel Murugo. Daniel doesn't want to speak, but maybe you can wave for the audience to see who you are. Okay, I gather that Daniel is very, very shy, but here's Daniel's question. All right. He says, thank you very much for your informative presentation. For leaks, what do you recommend, what incentives do you recommend that WSPs can offer to members of the public in reporting such? Perhaps that was for Engineer Alima, but you can also answer that. And he also asks, in extreme NRW, like illegal water connections, what help could the Kenya Water Police Unit offer to WSPs and WWD agencies?
First, in terms of reporting, let me attempt to be the ministry, but I'll speak from a consumer point of view. Where I live, there was a water leak in the city, and it took me about 3 weeks of nagging the tech department to come and fix it. Until at one point, I was wondering, is this the same water companies we talk about financing? Right in front of my house, I can see a water leak. Anyway, it was fixed eventually. But I think it's not more of an incentive. We need to be patriotic. I wasn't doing it to be incentivized. In fact, I wasn't suffering water loss or pressure in the house. It was coming from a neighboring line. But I was just feeling this is a loss. And I think as a people, we need to embrace that it is not okay to find water running on waste. It is not okay to fight somebody polluting the environment. I think these are the issues that we must also keep speaking and telling people, just like we keep saying corruption is not good, even though we all hide behind and assume that it is not me. But I think it is a conversation that we must entail and tell our people. The other thing is when you're doing this public participation on tariffs, encourage the audience that, by the way, we wouldn't be increasing these rates if only we were able to do this. But it's a double-edged sword. Because when they report, like Orina said here, and you don't act quickly, they give up. The next time they also don't report. Of course, not the illegal ones that they puncture the pipe so that they can do some roadside car wash, and we are the ones who go there and we pay, and we know this water is not being metered. A story for another day. Sorry, what was the second question? Maybe that's why he didn't want to speak about it.
The second question probably should be for Engineer Alima. In extreme cases of NRW, like illegal water connections, what help can the Kenya Water Police Unit offer to WSPs and WWD agencies?
Yeah, enforcement.
And perhaps I can give Engineer Alima a microphone for that answer.
Okay, thank you for that. You remember we brought the Kenya Water Police Unit in 2023, 2024. Is that correct? And that year, we moved around. And immediately we recovered 1 billion. Recovered 1 billion, which was to be lost, which means the reduction, the non-revenue water went down. Now, we are starting that again this coming financial year. So that's what I say, that we will have a team moving from every WSP to see your activities on non-revenue water reduction, to see where the Kenya Water Police can assist you, remove illegal connection. So it is starting again in this financial year we are starting today.
Yeah, perhaps it should be a continuous process. Yeah, just like the banking sector, the capital market sector, so that, yeah.
All right, so let's take one final question for Mr. Mwaniki.
I think this goes, my name is CPA Chunga Charles from Kakwasco. I'm just curious that maybe from the ministry perspective and even your level, it is by design that we fail. Why I'm giving an example is we have deliberately a unit called Water Police Unit. Is it funded by the ministry? No. They have again to come and ask us to facilitate them, for example, to do the work that the ministry formed the section to do. So if we don't fund them, then they'll not do their work. So they also would like to show maybe that they are working by having that issue continue to be there. Another example, by design of our departments, we have the non-revenue water unit, for example, the debt collection. So somebody just knows that we must create a unit called, because when you go to the Senate, they always say, do you have an non-revenue water unit, for example? So it's by default that you must have it. So these officers you employ, they know that one of our roles is that if the problem continues, then we are justifying our existence in the system. So we need to do the structural adjustment in some of these setups across the water service providers so that we have clearly the technical function that is deliberate in just undertaking the role to deliver them. And thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Mwaniki, closing comments?
I didn't want to extend that conversation, but I just feel like I must say one word. Yeah, give them a bonus for reducing the NRW. At the same time, train them to move to other sectors of the organization. Perhaps the next MD should come from the NRW unit so that they don't justify their existence by refusing to sort out the NRW. Thank you very much. Asante.
A big round of applause for Mr. Mwaniki. They are representing the CPF group. And I hope all utilities have heard. They keep saying they are ready to help. They have the money. They're willing to fund you. So I hope you're going to look for him right after this. Now, ladies and gentlemen, so far we've heard two compelling perspectives on the issue of non-revenue water. We started with policy and leadership. We've also heard about financial sustainability when it comes to non-revenue water. But naturally, then, the next question becomes, how do we turn all these ideas into measurable results and measurable action? And that is exactly what our next panel discussion seeks to explore this morning. The conversation is on a policy innovation and governance for accountability and performance management in non-revenue water reduction. Now, governance may not be the first thing people think about when they hear the words non-revenue water, but it is governance that will determine whether these strategies and numbers we've discussed today will be implemented, whether the investments that we put in will bring in value, and whether utilities will remain accountable at the end of the day. So allow me to introduce on stage our panelists first before introducing our moderator. Our panelists together represent decades of experience working to strengthen Kenya's water sector. First up on stage is Mr. Richard Cheruiyot. Mr. Richard Cheruiyot is the acting Chief Executive Officer of the Water Services Regulatory Board, WASREB. He currently leads Kenya's national water regulator, overseeing issues like utility performance and sector regulation. All right, he's definitely not Mr. Richard Cheruiyot, but he will be representing WASREB, and we'll get to hear from him as well. Up next on stage is Engineer Joseph Kamau, the Chief Executive Officer of Athi Waterworks Development Agency. And she is also not Engineer Joseph Kamau. I don't know where all the engineers went today, but we will be hearing from her as well as they speak about water infrastructure development and how to oversee water and sanitation projects sustainably. Also joining us for this panel discussion is Engineer Mary Wamaitha. At least I have seen her, and she's here in person. Engineer Mary Wamaitha is Director of Sanitation Management, as well as the Head of Development Cooperation at the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. She plays a key role in shaping national sanitation policy while strengthening collaboration between Kenya and its development partners. A very, very important link. Also joining us for this panel discussion is Mr. Michael Webers. He is the Country Manager for VEI Kenya and Waterworks Kenya, or WWX. Through the Dutch-approved Waterworks program, he works alongside Kenyan water service providers to strengthen utility performance and reduce non-revenue water, as well as expanding access to safe drinking water. Also joining us on stage is Willis Ombai. Mr. Willy Sombai is the Chief Executive Officer of the Water Sector Trust Fund, leading one of Kenya's key financing institutions supporting water and sanitation investments in the country, particularly in underserved and low-income communities. And last but not least is Dr. Walter Ongeti. Dr. Walter Ongeti is a Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya Accreditation Service, KENAS, and she is also definitely not Dr. Walter Ongeti, but she will be representing him. Now let's give them all a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very, very much. Now, every conversation needs someone who knows how to ask the difficult questions, the right questions, and even just politely telling us that we're speaking too much and we need to stick to time. And so our moderator for this panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen, is the Managing Director of Thika Water and Sewerage Company. He has championed operational excellence for years in Kenya's water sector. Please join me in welcoming Engineer Moses Kinya. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Well, this is the period where innovation and technology, financing, and policy meets. And we have had very elaborate presentations in terms of non-revenue water from the presenters that were ahead, Engineer Halima and John. And this has been a major challenge, the non-revenue water, not only in Kenya, but globally. Globally, the non-revenue water starts at 30%. That represents 126 cubic million of water lost annually. The loss in non-revenue water is not only a physical loss, it's not only a revenue loss, but it is also hours of service lost to our customers, which translates to loss of trust and confidence from our customers at a low service level to our customers, which is our goal. So we should not only look at it as a loss of revenue, but also a poor service to our people. In our country, we are higher than the global average, whilst the non-revenue water worldwide ranges from as low as 3% in Tokyo to 80% in Kenya, as was indicated by Engineer Halima. And that is huge loss of water that has been treated and delivered, pumped with a lot of costs going in. And again, we are crying that the coverage is still low. So this is an area that we need to think innovatively. The diagram that Engineer Halima showed, that there has been no movement. And in management, they say, if you do same things, you expect same results. I don't know whether we have been doing the same things. That's why we have not been getting different results. But from our panelists, I believe we'll get different ideas, innovative ideas, both in technology, financing, in policy, that will help us drive the sector forward and as well bring change into non-revenue. And I'll give my presenters each 5 minutes to answer some guided questions. And I'll start with Engineer James representing Richard Cheruiyot of WASLEP. And James, from a regulatory standpoint, what structural adjustment has WASLEP put in place to reduce non-revenue water?
Yes, thank you again. And my name is James Kigutu. I'm not Richard. I'm here to represent him, to represent the regulator, Water Services Regulatory Board. And we all agree that as much as we acknowledge the non-revenue water is attributed to physical, commercial losses, the root cause, which is the governance issues, contribute immensely into the non-revenue water. This is the weak leadership, weak accountability, weak management in water service provision. As a regulator, we exist to protect the interests of the consumer in water service provision, and at the same time ensuring that the water service provision is sustainable. That is, the WSP provide this service sustainably. And we, as a regulator, we have shifted from the simple monitoring to more comprehensive establishment or development of the framework to support the water service providers in management of non-revenue water. One of the major achievements that we have made through the ministry, and it was
we welcome the guests that are arriving. As we continue, welcome to the session on non-revenue water. We are proceeding, so thank you very much.
Yes, I was saying one of the milestones that we have made as a sector through the support of the ministry and partners is to develop the standard, which is our part of mandate for non-revenue water management that was released in 2022. And also to support the governance at the county level, we have a corporate governance that requires also to, requires the WSP to enhance the structures, the institutional structures, starting from the board of these utilities, the management of these utilities, ensuring that these board members also, their performance contract with the county government who own these utilities. And these performance contracts are based on the performance of some of the key performance indicators that we have established, one of them being non-revenue water management. Number two is ensuring the WSPs have non-revenue water management unit, especially the medium, large and very large institution, and we are able also to support them through the tariff to support the staff in that section. Now, tariff, it has been mentioned here, is one of the hot topic in the sector. And most of the time you find we are fighting with consumers and politicians as well when we want to move the tariff up. The NAWASIP targets us to raise almost 31 billion through inefficiency improvement, and one of them is non-revenue.
So sorry to interrupt the conversation, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like us to all appreciate the presence in the room this morning of the Israeli ambassador to Kenya, His Excellency Gideon Behar, who has just joined us in the room. Let's welcome him with a round of applause, please. Thank you very much for being here, sir. Proceed.
Yes, thank you. And what we have done as a regulator, we are transitioning the WSPs from operation with non-cost recovery tariff towards cost recovery tariff. And for the private investors, the PPP, we have also restructured our tariff structure to accommodate the private sector to come and inject their equity, for example, to support the investment in this sector, looking at accommodating return on investment on their equity, for example. Now, tariff cannot be able to accommodate all the investment to support non-revenue water. The threshold that we can move is around 30%. That means we need to look at more alternatives through better models or instruments to finance the management of non-revenue water. And as a regulator, we are also partnering with development partners, the commercial bank, to sensitize the utilities, to invest all, be able to get finances from this sector. Now, performance is one of the key also that we are looking at. When we issue a license to a utility, we expect them to perform as agreed in the targeted performance indicator, including the non-revenue water. And when we look at approving the tariffs of this WSP, we give incentives to the utilities that are able to achieve these targets of non-revenue water management. And those WSP that are not able to, we don't give them investment for these interventions. Now, as a regulator, we have a purpose to monitor and enforce compliance, which we do through close monitoring. The WSPs are supposed to report to us through WARIS, and that is what we report in our impact report. 2025, we got the new regulations 2025 in water services, and this also has enabled the utilities to take legal action against the water losses through illegal connection. For example, illegal connection, if legal action is taken against them, they are supposed to pay up to 1 million Kenya shillings as fines, and up to 2 years jail term for that illegal connection. Again, the offenders are supposed also to reimburse the amount that is taken illegally and also pay an interest of 12%. That is a milestone that we encourage the water service provider to take. The other thing is continuous capacity building and building synergies, partnership with the stakeholders to support our utilities. Thank you.
Thank you, James, for that presentation. As we move forward, I will request the audience to, if you have a question, keep it for the sake of time. Write it, know the person to ask, so that we ask at the end after the panelists have talked. So I'll go to the next panelist, who is Mr. Wabas, the country manager of VEI. And Mr. Wabas, we know VEI has extensive global and regional experience in utility performance improvement. When looking at international benchmark like the Netherlands, what are the governance or operational shifts that Kenyan WSPs may adopt to successfully transition to an acceptable non-revenue water? Mr. Wabas.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. Let me maybe give some context about the Netherlands, and then I'll get to the answers of your question. I've worked in one of the utilities in the Netherlands for about 8 years, and when I started there, non-revenue was around 4 to 5%. So that was, we're very happy with that, I can say. But throughout the years, it actually was increasing to about 6, 7%, I think, and now it's around 7.5. And I can tell you we had some nightless sleeps actually on that. And what we did is we formed a task group to look at all these different components, I think that were mentioned also. So that aligns with the focus, basically that Engineer Alima was talking about. And within this task force, everybody was looking at different elements. So from commercial to the data management, we were comparing GIS, commercial data, even to find, those nitty-gritty differences. And in the end, I think it was not just one issue that came up. Of course, it were many issues. I remember there was one customer, he had a very nice, the water flowing in his garden. And actually he thought it was a natural source. Now, it was actually turned out to be a big water leak. So this water leak had been going on for years and years and years. And it was only because we had this wake-up call that we were investigating, those type of things. Another one is if you look at the way the Dutch water sector is structured, so the utility basically are also, you could say it's also owned by the county. It's actually the county and then the different municipalities. Those are the owners, but actually the county is the biggest owner. And if you look at accountability, it's actually so those owners, those stakeholders that approve a tariff. So it's not a national body or like the regulator that approves the tariffs. It's actually those owners. So what they do is they have meetings, of course, once a year or once every few years. No, I think it's actually once a year. And then, they look at all these different components, like how is your NRW doing? How is your performance doing? And all those different KPIs. And if, the owners are satisfied with the answers, only then they'll actually approve the new tariff. And of course, there is also the sector benchmarking. Of course, there are only 10 water utilities in the Netherlands. But they do benchmark and actually they kind of regulate on their own. And that is only possible, I think, because there is this discipline, there is a focus and accountability, basically. And I think I was actually, when Engineer Alima was giving his presentation, I thought he actually had sneaked into my room and picked my mind, because those are exactly the items actually that I wanted to address. But I think if you look at all these different components, it's about data management, it's about meter management, and also to give you a bit of perspective, in the Netherlands, customers only, the meter reading is only once a year. It's once a year. So imagine if you email your customer and you ask him for the meter reading, and then based on that, you do the billing. So and I think also an important part is that even internally, of course, there's a lot of collaboration. And like you said, people they must work as a team, but there is also this accountability. So actually there are internal service level agreements. So for example, when I'm head of the commercial department, I talk to my colleagues from distribution, and then we agree upon those different KPIs. Like how fast can you actually get the repair done? How many leaks are you expecting this year? And all this, of course, translates into financing. And I think, I think there were a lot of items mentioned. Also, like these performance-based contracts. Why don't you look at NRW? Also in these KPIs and these performance contracts. I think I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And we'll go to the next panelist. That is Engineer Caroline, the Deputy Director, Bulk Water Supply at the Athi Waterworks Development Agency, representing Engineer Joseph Kamau, the CEO. And from your perspective, Engineer Jane, how is the bulk water supply model being leveraged to make WSPs more responsible with non-revenue water reduction? And how is Athi Water implementing this model?
Okay, thank you very much. First, I'd like to say that currently, Athi Water is operating 2 bulk water supply systems. That is the Northern Collector Tunnel and the Karimenutu Dam bulk water supply system. These systems are supplying over 210,000 meter cube of water per day to various water service providers in the counties of Murang'a, Kiambu, and Nairobi. And I'd like to say that how we are doing the leverage to make the WSPs responsible to manage non-revenue water, number one, is by requiring that the volumes of water supplied to the water service providers are paid. If you are supplying X volume of water to various WSPs, we expect them also to pay the same X amount of water. And this has pushed, of course, the water service providers to improve structural accountability in their utilities. And as been mentioned earlier in the presentations, it's a whole utility approach in terms of we need the WSPs are required to improve governance, their culture, and also be very proactive in matters of managing their operational inefficiencies. Especially, you find that in some water service providers, there are very high OPEX costs. You find that the staff inputs are very high. Also, the non-revenue water is high. So since as a bulk water supplier, we expect that when you supply you X, you pay us X, they are now compelled to proactively deal with their inefficiencies. So this is how we are leveraging this bulk water supply and compelling the WSPs to improve the efficiencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Jane. We'll go to the next panelist, who is Willis Obai, the CEO of Water Sector Fund. And Willis, high non-revenue water rates across the country can be attributed to weak governance structures in WSP. How is the Water Fund supporting water utilities to improve their governance for reduction of non-revenue water?
Thank you very much, Dr. Kinya, for the question that you have asked. Maybe for starters or people who might not be well versed, Water Sector Trust Fund, we are a financing institution within the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. We look for resources from different partners and then channel, and of course, finally, we have to look at the value for money that have been realized from the resources that we have supported this institution. Secondly, that we work closely with both national institutions and county institutions. So, and more particularly focusing in the underserved areas and marginalized areas. Back to your question on how we support the issue of non-revenue water. The way we look at governance is that if we fail to deliver on the functions, like if the water companies fail to deliver, then that is a governance issue. And so I'll try to highlight about 5 areas on how we do this. First, we issue conditional support to the water companies that are actually implementing this. So you find before we do the financing, there are several conditions that have to be made, which hinge or are more related to governance issues. And we work closely with WASREB, that is in terms of registration and licensing. We don't support entities that are not registered. We must have functional governance structure, financial management capacity. We all look at those, including even some of the capacity building support that we undertake before this. So that helps in the first place. And I know nearly 90% of the participants here come from the background of water service providers, and they know that is a condition. Secondly, we also focus more on performance-based financing and incentives, and this has been like a thin thread which has woven throughout the presentations that we have had. Performance-based financing brings about accountability. It brings about the responsibility for the resources which are being given. Through CLSG program, conditional liquidity support grant, which is money that we realize from World Bank through the ministry. We have managed, for instance, to support Eldowas and Nairobi, whom are here. Engineer Lima, the metrics were not very good, but we want to believe in another 2 years because we gave a support of more than 50 meters, and we know the role of water meters in reduction of non-revenue. We also have capacity building programs and training. We have worked with Nakuru Rural, for instance, under the same program to support training on non-revenue water. When we talk about the DMS, I know the water companies will obviously establish the DMS, but what is also required in the DMS are the water meters, which under the same CLSG, we have been able to significantly support. Coming also to the third example that we have done, we have implementation of result-based result-based programs. 2 of them that we have undertaken in the sector, output-based aid and aid on delivery. And the principal focus of these are outputs and outcomes. If I zero in on AOD, which is aid on delivery, supported by KFW, you will find that most of the interventions are geared towards having outcomes which are related to reduction of non-revenue water. The fourth one that I want to zero in is also PBC, performance-based contracting. And this we have been able to initiate in close to 5 water companies, Eldowas, Naivasha, Nyeri, and Nanyuki. I think where we are zeroing in 2 companies is Nanyuki and Naivasha. And in all this, you find we have supported the development of non-revenue reduction water strategies, and we have come up with approximated costs that are required to do the interventions. I think, for instance, Eldowas requires about 1 billion Kenya shillings, and I agree with the earlier presenters in terms of the quantum of resources which are required to make the real change happen in these institutions. And more importantly, in this PBC, which we are focusing on, is the involvement of the private sector, because the monies are a lot. And so our friend from CPF, I want to pay great appreciation to what you mentioned and presented in terms of how can we get more resources coming into the sector. And lastly is implementation of KWAS program, which is still a P4R, performance for results. So you see that the key thing is how we move from more of grant-based to performance, which is more private sector-driven, and bringing more accountability. Under KWAS, we have 19 counties participating with almost 34 water companies that we are supporting, and I believe a number of them are present in the room. Just as recent as 2 weeks ago, we have been able to disburse funds close to 600 million Kenya shillings for the purposes of investing, but also as a result of meeting certain compliance levels which are required. Because when compliance levels in governance are met, then we are sure about how we are going to deal with the issue of non-revenue. So under this program, we have 3 disbursement link indicators, which is DLI 6, which deals with compliance and governance. We have improvement of OCCR, and lastly, we have commercial financing, which are all geared and very relevant in terms of the topic of discussion. The only thing I would say is that let's move more to performance and outcome-based work, and this will help develop, help us to handle the issue of non-revenue. And lastly, the pipeline of programs that we are developing now, if you look at it, there's something we are doing with the Danish Embassy, which is more focusing on impact funding, and this will be focusing on how do water companies increase their revenues. The similar one with MAF, Mitigation Action Facility. These are all programs which are geared towards non-revenue. So the question is, how do we make ourselves ready for these programs? We have been discussing, but let's improve the capacities of the WSPs to be able to take up this challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Willis, for that elaborate presentation. I will now move to Dr. Walter Ogeri, the CEO of KENAS. And Dr. Walter, KENAS ensures that conformity assessment bodies meet international standards. How can the sector leverage KENAS accredited calibration and testing labs to reduce non-revenue water?
Thank you very much for that question. Maybe I will start with introducing myself. My name is Felista Kerubonyakwe. I work for the Kenya Accreditation Service, and today I'm here representing Dr. Walter Ongeti, who could not make it, but he'll join us in the afternoon. Now, on your question on how we can leverage on accreditation to reduce non-revenue water, what I want to say is that maybe I can start by introducing KENAS. KENAS is the Kenyan Accreditation Service. Kenya Accreditation Service is under the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry, and our work, mainly our mandate is to accredit conformity assessment bodies. Those are bodies that test against certain specifications to ensure that products and services meet requirements. Now, in the case of the water sector, we accredit testing laboratories and calibration laboratories. When we look at the issue of accreditation of calibration labs, normally what we do is that we accredit for flow meters testing, for flow meter calibrations and other meter calibrations. This is very, very important because we have to ensure that our flow meters or our meters are actually reading the correct measurements. Measurements are really, really very important because if you cannot, when you measure, if you measure and you say we have measured maybe 45 million cubic meters of water and all that, and that is what we are going to bill, then it must be you are actually billing for the water which you have already, which you have treated and you have now distributed. So you have to bill for the accuracy, for the accurate measurement. Now, when we look at these calibration labs that are within our water service providers, we have to ensure that these measurements which they're giving us are actually traceable and they're accurate. The issue of measurements cannot be underestimated. Today I was listening to Engineer Lima, and he was giving us a lot of statistics on the measurements. And in the morning when I was just going through my notes, I saw the report from the World Bank. I saw what RASREB has said, that the water losses between 40 and 50% for non-revenue water. And this is actually a very, very alarming thing because what we were seeing here today, we were seeing that the non-revenue water losses are actually very constant over the years. They are neither reducing and not increasing. So it's very, very important that we ensure that our measurements are accurate so that we can be able to give people the correct measurements that they want. Now, allow me to give two examples of some of our accredited labs and how they have managed to reduce non-revenue water through strict measurements, metrological traceability. As KENAS, we have accredited 4 water service providers labs. That is Nyeri Water, Kisumu Water, Eldoret Water, and Nakuru Water. Now for Nakuru Water and Eldoret Water, we have accredited their testing laboratories. But for Nyeri Water and Kisumu Water, we have accredited their calibration laboratories. Now, when we look at the figures that we are getting, Kisumu historically has been having non-revenue water losses of between 41 to 47%. But because of this strict metrological traceability and the accreditation of their calibration lab, we have seen the reduction of these to a low of 28%. For what I saw here, I think it has now settled at 32%, so we can see there is reduction based on the intervention they have done on accreditation. Now, when you look at our gold standard laboratory, that is Nyeri Water, we find that it has maintained a national benchmark of between 16 to 20% of non-revenue water for the last 17 years. And Nyeri Water was among the first calibration labs to be accredited in 2013. So you can see the kind of intervention that they have taken and how it has given them an advantage in terms of the reduction of non-revenue water. We are told that, from what we know, is that not all water service providers have these calibration labs. There are many of them who use the services of Nyeri Water, but we want to encourage those who are here that you need to look at the measurements critically. If I can finish with saying from Peter Drucker, he was a management expert. He has a business philosophy that says, if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. In Kenas, we have added that if you cannot measure it accurately, then you cannot manage it. So for those who want to reduce their non-revenue water, as part of your strategy, you need to put accuracy of measurements at the center of that strategy. And we are inviting you to come to Kenas for accreditation, and we can partner you in this great or normal venture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kenas. Now, the last but not least is Engineer Mary Wamaitha, Director of Sanitation Management and Head of Development Cooperation at the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. And Engineer Mary, the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation, in liaison with WASLEB, published standards, non-revenue water management in Kenya guidelines at the handbook of 2022. What are the impacts of this handbook on reducing non-revenue across water utilities?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for that very important question. And I want us to approach this from a very different perspective. And I want us to be guided by something that is called the middle income trap. The middle income trap is where you have nations developing very fast from low income nations, and then they plateau at the middle income status, meaning they are not able to transit into high income and developed countries. So when you look at it from the Kenyan perspective, for us to be able to move, as now we know we are a low middle income country, for us to be able to transit into a highly developed and high income country, we need to start rethinking how we are doing our business. The first thing that the experts talk about when we are moving towards the highly developed country is something they call investment. Investment both in human capital and also in infrastructure. And if you look at these two, the two combined, they form institutions. Now, these institutions need to be protected. They need to be protected for them to support the human capital development and also the infrastructure development. Now, with the guidelines and the standards that have been issued, we should be able to take advantage of that and move quickly into a high income country. The other thing that the experts talk about when we want to transit into a high income country is infusion of technology, infusion of knowledge from the people who have been there. And in Kenya, we are lucky. We are not out of options for best practices in the world. And we should be able also to adopt that as has been demonstrated through some of our pioneers or technological pioneers employing of, artificial intelligence in our functions, And then the other thing that we need to look at is innovation within the country. And Kenya is strategically placed as a country that has the best innovators, in technology, in management, in all that, and also in the amount of knowledge that is contained in this country. And we should be able to take advantage of that because it's within us. Now, if you look at the three areas, we all go back to the institutions. And you see our water service providers, when we now start talking about non-revenue waters of 50%, it means our institutions need a tweak, an immediate tweak, because it has been a constant from 40 to 50. Now we are going to 50. And so we need an instant tweak, and we need to be the generation that is called the brave generation. The movement from a middle income to a high income country requires a lot of bravery because it needs us to adopt policies that may look like they are not consumer friendly. But once we don't do that, we do not protect the same consumer who needs to be protected by policy. And so we need to adopt the EAGLE approach. All of us know the EAGLE development approach. If your trainer was very graphic, he perhaps talked about breaking the beak. But we will not go into those graphics because we have institutions already established by Constitution and by the Act and by the strengthened by the regulations and the standards. And so we need to mold. And the data that should help us to mold is this one. From the impact report, we have a production increase of 9.4% for water. And when you look at the connections that were able to be done within that period, it's 1.3% for water and 0.9% for water. Now, if we say the production for water increased by 9.4%, and we compare it with the economic growth rate, at that point, it was 4.6%, meaning that there is a lot of interest in the development. But then when we come to the very last, where the rubber meets the road, we are not doing enough. So we need to be brave enough and accept this and start changing towards ensuring that last point, we are able to do this. Now, the two approaches which I see from where I sit is, first of all, we need to really move into applying domestic capital, as what has been presented here. We need to start applying domestic capital in addition to our development capitals from our DFIs. For us to be able to do that, the first thing is the institution, the same institution that we are talking about. And I dare say, as we know in Kenya, the water and service provision rests at the county level, and the government, the national government, handles policy and bulk water infrastructure development. So I dare say that the Constitution anticipated that at one point, we may not all be able to grow at the same pace. One level of government may grow faster than the other government. And in the Article 189, because of this anticipation, the article proposes cooperation between the two levels of government to be able to help in the tweaking of what is not being achieved from the one level of government. And as national government, we are open to cooperation to ensure that we protect the institutions that are in the water sector, and also we leverage on domestic capital and also from the capital that we are receiving from our DFIs. Now, do the standards that we have issued support this? Do the regulations that we have issued support this? Does the national water policy support this? And the answer to all that is yes. But then our mindset needs to move from a middle-income country into we start already positioning ourselves as a high-income country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our panelists, and thank you, the audience, for listening. And now it's time for you to engage the panelists. I would give maybe 3 questions. First round of 3 questions. There's one behind there. If the microphone can be taken to behind there. At that corner. The hand is raised. Then you come to Simon. There are several hands. Yes. Okay. And please, if you can direct the question to a particular panelist, would be grateful.
Good morning. My name is CPA Mary Njoroge from Nakuru Rural Water and Sanitation Company. My question or comment is to WASREB. I would want to see probably us clustering rural companies separately from the urban companies, because from the conversation around NRW, rural companies are the drivers of NRW. And we know our challenges are different from the urban companies because of the geographical regions that we serve. The other question I would direct to the ministry, how they can collaborate with Ministry of Lands because of the challenges rural companies face during mutation of land, transfer from one individual to the next. Our pipeline from the old days of independence passes through very huge chunks of land. And we have seen our pipelines being destroyed during that transition. So I would want to hear what the ministry can help us in terms of, that land transfer. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person. Here. Here.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let this be the final question. In the interest of time, you can please feel free to write down your questions, like our John Doe, Daniel Murugu, has done once again, and I will be giving them to Mrs. Momaida.
Thank you, Michelle, my very able student. I'm glad that you're doing very well. Godfrey is my name, and I'm in research, I'm a lecturer, I'm in the education sector, and very passionate about the water sector. Now, the conversation that we've had this morning, ranging from the first presenter all through, has been very, very, very key in addressing this gap around the NRW. But then I want to address the second presenter, connect him with Engineer Wamaida and our friend from, is it Danish?
Very.
Exactly. Now, where the rubber meets the tarmac is the question of financing. Because apparently, NRW is a problem that have actually been brought back from mainly the dilapidated infrastructure around our WSPs. Now, borrowing from the world of table banking, before we talk about, somebody talked about the JICAs, the World Bank and all that. Before we talk about the funding from that end, is it possible, and Madam Momaida can guide us, is it possible to talk around the WSPs from the ministry level and through the county governments to help us to have what you call a concept like a table banking where Nairobi Water, which apparently could be doing better than a certain X WSP, which would be performing minimally, where they can actually come up with a kind of a circle where one becomes the brother's keeper, where they can be able to share revenue and actually have a kitty where they can be borrowing from each other at a probably subsidized interest before we talk about going to get funding from probably out there. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Let's have the questions.
Dr. Kenya, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but we will have to cut short the Q&A session in the interest of time. I really do hope that our questions will be answered outside the podium as we intend to save time. So I will kindly allow you your closing comments as we move on.
All right, thank you very much, our panelists and our audience. And we have really gotten the gist of this morning's session, that to tackle non-revenue water, it is a multifaceted approach. It has to be data-driven, data that is of integrity. We have noted that we have adequate policies developed by the ministry, guidelines by WASLEB. Implementation is what is required so that those documents, the hard books, do not gather dust in our shelves. And maybe to mention the integrity of the data, because if you don't have accurate data, then we may not move well. I would like to comment that the situation looks stagnant, but there is improvement in most of the other key indicators. And the main reason is that our data, when we began, was very shoddy. There has been great improvement in data, and particularly through WASLEB. I'm a witness and a victim of that. If you check the non-revenue water from 2023 to the impact 17 to impact 18, the non-revenue went up. The main reason is that those that have sewer, and sewer is, there are customers that supply water from boreholes, and then they dispose the sewer into our system. The meter reading for the water, because sewering is done through the water, it is recorded as supplied by the company. But over last year, WASLEB became very tough, and they required that that data be removed from the water produced by the company, because the systems were capturing it like that. So I would like to say that the indicators in other platforms are improving, and I think the integrity of the data is also improving. So data is very key, because without data, innovation will not work. And the innovation will help us to get better data. Thank you very much, our audience, for the sake of time. And thank you very much, our panelists, for your contributions. And I believe we'll move forward in a great manner. Thank you very much.
Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you very much, Dr. Kenya, as well as our wonderful, wonderful panelists for all the insight in that plenary session. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as you've heard this morning, clearly reducing non-revenue water isn't simply a technical exercise. It's something that requires policy, governance, and accountable institutions as well. Let's give them another round of applause as they walk up. All right. I'm informed we must have a panel photo. Let's please have our panelists back on stage very quickly I don't want the photographers to be angry with me because they may take very bad pictures of me too. So let's have a great photo for the panelists as we prepare for the second plenary session. As we do that, I'd like to recognize once again the presence of His Excellency Gideon Behar, Ambassador of the State of Israel to Kenya. Your Excellency, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today as we discuss non-revenue water reduction. Israel is globally recognized itself for transforming water scarcity into water security through things such as innovation, technology, water reuse, as well as efficient irrigation. It remains a country that continues to inspire countries around the world, including Kenya, and we are delighted to have you here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know many of you are now looking forward to a tea break, as is written on your programs. I have good news and bad news, all right? The bad news is that we're running a little behind time, and the good news is that the conversations here have been so engaging, so we're going to keep the momentum going, all right? We will not take that tea break, and if you're serious about reducing losses, I think we should also be serious about reducing any more loss of time this morning, isn't it? And so, before we continue, we've been sitting for a while. 2 seconds. Please indulge me. If you can stand, please stand. Let's be upstanding. Shake off that first plenary session. Let's stretch up our arms as high as you can. You know how it goes. Up. No, some of you are not doing it high enough. You're stretching. Okay, let's do it forward. Let's do it to the side. Okay. I was told blue is the color for water. Find one person wearing blue and tell them every drop counts. I don't know how many people you can find wearing blue. Tell them every single drop counts. All right, and before we sit down, we're all here for non-revenue water. In fact, let's all shout it. The Impact 18 report says Kenya's non-revenue water is at what percent? I can't hear you. 48, 58, 68? Okay, good. So we all know why we're here. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's all take our seats, please. Now that the room is awake again, I'd like us to move to the second plenary session. We move from policy to practice now. Now this morning, the first plenary session focused on creating the right environment for change. This next session is about the tools that can make that change possible. The question before us now is no longer whether the solutions exist. It is how we can scale these solutions up, adapt them to our local context, and deliver measurable results for utilities. To help us begin that conversation, it is my pleasure to invite the Chief Executive Officer of the Water and Sanitation Providers Association, Anthony Njaramba, to introduce our keynote speaker. Anthony, the stage is yours.
I can see a few people mumbling because of tea, but Kenya, we have a history with tea. And right now, there's a lady called Maverick Aoko who serves tea, serious tea. Have you heard about that? Ever heard of that lady? How many know about that lady? Maverick Aoko. If she hasn't served you a tea, be very careful. My advice is leave Facebook very quickly and don't touch Twitter. Your Excellency, we indulge you. We have a very important technology that we want to present right now. And then after this, we'll allow you to take a short break. This is a technology that we discovered in our continuous efforts in trying to fight NRW. And we are privileged and highly honored that the team from our Acumen Group has come here to Kenya several times now, engaged us in very high-level engagements. And we are at that moment where we are saying, this is the time. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce a team from Acumen. Kevin, to come and introduce his team, and then Gideon will make the presentation. Let's put our hands together for this gentleman.
Good morning. Event Director, thanks for according us some time. Distinguished organizers of the conference, esteemed stakeholders in the African water industry, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. It's a very intimidating slot that I've been given because it's the one that's denied people tea. So I believe tea is an institution in Kenya. So without further ado, my name is Tafirenyika Kevin Makoni. I'm the director of Acumen Group, responsible for Africa. It is a great honor and privilege as Acumen Group to participate in this very important non-revenue water conference. The word acumen refers to the ability to make good judgments and quick, sharp decisions, typically within a specified domain. Another version refers to it as clarity of mind, depth of perception, discernment, especially in practical decision-making. These are the qualities that Acumen Group has set out to be measured against. Acumen Group is a Pan-African water management solutions company with over 15 years of experience delivering integrated solutions across Africa, across the entire water value chain. From supply of product and laboratory equipment to asset management, digital technologies, and infrastructure solutions. We provide a bespoke, comprehensive, end-to-end service to water utilities and industries across the continent. Since our establishment in South Africa, we have grown our footprint across South Africa, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Madagascar, and are now expanding further into the rest of Africa. My office's role is to lead our African growth strategy, positioning Acumen as a trusted partner, leader in advancing sustainable water management across the continent. We're therefore delighted to be part of this week's important conversation. The challenge of non-revenue water is one that requires collaboration, innovation, and practical solutions. We believe Africa has the expertise, technology, and partnerships necessary to address these challenges and strengthen water security for our communities. For Acumen, Kenya represents a strategic gateway to East Africa. Your well-documented story is Africa's Silicon Savannah, coupled with your dynamic economy, strong infrastructure agenda, vibrant water sector, and regional leadership, make you an ideal partner as we expand our presence in the region. We look forward, therefore, to working alongside Kenyan utilities, government, and industry partners in building more resilient and efficient water systems. On a lighter note, my esteemed elder, Engineer Alimo, appeared to concede defeat to non-revenue water earlier in his presentation. We look forward that at the end of the conference, we would together have come up with ways to snatch that much-needed victory from the jaws of defeat. We have in the House a very strong team from the Acumen Group, whom, with your indulgence, Director, I will briefly introduce before I hand over the baton to my colleague who will give our presentation. We have, and gentlemen, if you can be upstanding, we have Engineer Timothy Rikuni, who's our Group Technical Director, and we also have Advocate Blessed Mushamiri, our Group Corporate Affairs and Legal Advisor. I believe you would call him your wakili. Finally, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce my colleague, leader, and our Group CEO, Mr. Gideon Reineke, to make our presentation. Gideon is a passionate advocate for the digital transformation of the water sector. Through his leadership, Acumen has developed deep institutional knowledge and practical experience in deploying innovative technology. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in saying Karibu to Gideon Reineka.
Good afternoon, good morning. Ooh, Anthony, the tea break was needed, I'm telling you, my friend. Even the jumping jacks were short in time, but the tea break was needed. Thank you very much for the time. Thank you for allowing us to be here. Thank you for being part of the non-revenue. I have a basic premise to any conversation, and that is that it is a conversation. I think we reiterated it a couple of times. We are here to talk about it, correct? It is for us to be able to speak to each other and address the problem at hand. And with that, I would like to ask, what is the opposite of non-revenue? Revenue. Is that not why we have so many delegates here? We want to be discussing revenue. We want to be talking about what non-revenue is looking like without the non, with the revenue at hand. And I think that is what we are here to do. As the Acumen Group, we have taken the 16 years that we have operated in different sectors and brought it together in a singular solution to provide an outcome that is actionable. How many conferences have you been at? How many conversations have you had about non-revenue? Ah, my guys, we are losing you already. I've got 20 minutes, we've lost them in 3. We've had many conversations. Now, the action and the outcome is what we would like to talk about. So if you give me 15 minutes at a very high level, now that you've been introduced to the team, we want to take you through some of those actions. How do we impact those changes? What have we done for other countries? What are the technologies, the software? What skills do we develop in Kenya to be able to get that action and that actionable outcome? So let's see if we can get us going in the presentation. It says it's linking. There we go. So if we understand what the first couple of presentations was about, we understand that the definition of the problem is clear. Would we agree with that? We understand from policy, we understand from governance, we understand from the metering, the piping, the leaks, the pressure, how that impacts it. We understand the percentages. So we can go through all of the challenges that relate to non-revenue water. But how do we address it? And we want to address it in a very simple way. We want to give you 4 basic pillars to understand non-revenue water. If I look at some of the percentages in the first presentation, let's see if they have, and even when tested, the non-revenue is for us in 4 specific pillars. It is, we've got to be able to detect it. Not just detect it, but detect it quickly. Some of the technologies out there allow us to detect it, but it is limited or it is expanded by the time taken to find it. So we'll be addressing that. If we look at some of the conversations that we had about policy, governance, bringing it together, what does the assets in the WSPs look like? How do we accomplish a structural review to bring together a singular management structure? And then we look at what infrastructure do we need to deploy to be able to address non-revenue water. And then we look at the expense outlay. Now, one of the things that we haven't spoken about is every drop of water that is lost is at a cost, correct? Non-revenue water specifically, although I started the conversation jokingly saying that we want revenue, we also want to be able to reduce costs. Now, if you don't know, Acumen is a private company, and private companies want to make, hey guys, do we not want to make money? We are profit, driven for profit. Now, a basic equation in business is you manage profit by doing 2 things. What is it? I want interaction. I'm not a preacher. I don't want to put you to sleep. We want to be is cost, all right? We talked about tariffs and tariff increases, so you can always increase profit by increasing the pricing. So there are two components to it, but if we look at the expense outlay, we look at the expense that we have already invested in infrastructure, in pumping the water to a tap that doesn't receive it and that the water is lost. There's a cost associated to it. And that's what we want to quickly go through with you. So the satellite leak detection that we want to bring about is to shorten that expansive search for that leak and bring it into your hands in the shortest period of time. Now, for us, it's very exciting that it is an Israeli technology that we deploy as the license holder for Africa in being able to assist in shortening the time of being able to find the leak. When we did this in South Africa, one of the leaks for the largest water board on the continent, they didn't find it for 10 years. 10 years. We deployed the satellite, and within, can we have a guess, how many hours? No, that would be too arrogant to imagine. How many days do you think we were able to pinpoint the leak that they couldn't find for 10 years with the satellite leak detection technology? 7, 5, I've got a 5. That's almost hours. That's a couple of hours. We were able to do it in 14 days. So the satellite has to rotate over the Earth to be able to take that snapshot, and we were able to take that advanced satellite detection technology and deploy the algorithmic verification, prioritization, and bring it into a dashboard that allowed us to find that leak that they haven't found for 10 years, not without trying, in 14 days. So for us, what I would like to quickly take and focus on, and if we look at it, is there are several facets of bringing this technology into Kenya. So the advanced satellite technology is the same technology that was used to make trillionaires, I used to say billionaires, but he's now a trillionaire, Elon Musk, make statements about water on Mars. It's the same satellite technology that then allows us to look at any city, at any infrastructure, and assist you in planning what your master plan for pipe work, pipe reticulation, the network of distribution looks like. Who has Nairobi's master plan for pipe work? Do we have it? I can tell you right now, where I come from, city of Joburg, we can't pinpoint every pipe network. You can't. If I gave you the satellite and we are able to scan your city within 14 days and define what pipe is pumping water, what pipe is pumping sewage, what pipe is leaking water, what pipe is leaking sewage, are we able then to prioritize what needs to be fixed? Are we able to deploy assets in actioning the outcome, or talk about it? And I think that is what is key for us when it comes to that. Now, the integrated software suite, and I heard a couple of conversations in the earlier presentations, is centralizing information, being able to respond to a customer phoning in or a user phoning in and saying there's a leak in my street, and being able to respond. In our integrated software suite, we are taking your GIS information, we take the satellite information that scans below the ground up to 10 meters deep and defines every pipe, every network, and builds you a master plan from the ground up, and then take that into a GIS, and from the GIS take it into a planning methodology where we can then execute people through it. And that's what we do with the integrated software suite. And then in South Africa, we've integrated the smart meter call centers into the same software. And we've integrated the call centers into leak detection, so that a singular platform is then used to be able to manage the responsiveness to non-revenue water. So we are shortening the time frame for identifying the leak, and then also being able to address it responsively and efficiently. So for us, it's about bringing the technology into Kenya, and as my co-CEO, Kevin, CEO for Africa, says, it is for us to be able to upskill and be able to bring that for the Africans to assist Africans. It doesn't have to be other people doing it for us. And then we are able to, through that software suite, be able to provide a full project support, and then provide, through policy, through regulations, support for the WSPs and the structures within each government. And I think that's what's very key for us when it comes to the satellite leak detection technology. Now for us, I can see why the earlier presenters battled with the pushing of the button. It doesn't want to move. We must be patient. See, but you should have told me so before I came up here. So for us, there's a couple more facets to it. So while I'm being patient, I'll take your, there we go. What we've done is we've created a layered approach to the information that we're trying to gather for you. We've heard from earlier presentations that it is extremely important to have correct data to be able to process. So now I've given you an opportunity to find data or data to analyze from surface and below. Now we give you a solution to be able to assist with surface and above. It's called a structural review, and we do that by unique 3D, I don't know what's going on there, 3D monitoring of vehicles that we take through a city, through a software, or through a water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plants, and we take that information and we can drive it through a city at 120 kilometers an hour. Well, let's not drive through a city at 120 kilometers an hour, and populate our suite of software, further investigating what infrastructure development points we need to prioritize. What we do with that is it takes a singular snapshot of the different infrastructure upgrades that we want to be able to do in a city, and we then pinpoint it to what we are dictating the importance or priority to be. So if I sit with the project steering committee of a program, we then take that as the top applications. If I'm going to show you later how we do it into water and wastewater treatment plants, but we can apply it to airports, roads, mining. We can digitalize your city for you. Digitalize your city for you so that you can understand where leaks are happening. What is the cause of that leak? Is it a structural deficiency? Is it an engineering deficiency? Or is it the age of the network that is the deficiency? Those are the things we are able to do within our structural review module of what we're trying to do. The structural development for me is one of the key passions that I have when it comes to water. And if I look at the structural development or infrastructure development, is who agrees that we have built some amazing water treatment and wastewater treatment plants in Africa? Would we agree with that? Hey, my guys, we lost. We have amazing water and wastewater treatment plants. Civil construction of plants has been amazing. And yet, when we look at it, we don't look at the ability to improve what we have. So one of the infrastructure development foundations that we build on is just improving the process optimization of what we have. Why is that such an important topic? Because the cost associated with replacement, rebuilding, or renewing of the same said infrastructure has a direct impact on cost. So if I look at the cost of improving what we have compared to just deploying new, we are able to bring about a massive improvement in the deployment of economic growth in sectors. I'm going to give you an example. We had a wastewater treatment plant that we just reviewed in PE, or East London, on the coast. We got there, not working at all. Civil structure is still there. Mechanically, nothing. We deployed mechanical equipment, aerators, we deployed the disinfection technologies, we did the screens. We spent 5 million rand. What is 5 million rand in Kenya shillings, guys? We're talking, how much? Okay, let's say 5 million rand. I'll get to the shillings. Kevin, I can't read your lips. Compared to the 38 million rand we would have spent if we had to put a new plant down. Do you understand cost equation that we have to do? And that's a facet that we bring into a singular solution when we come to water and wastewater treatment plants. Now, big factor when we come back to the satellite is if we are able to define what leaks we have in sewage in the city, does that not impact the cost of managing your water? It has to, guys. Every resource that you have that feeds into a water treatment plant has an impact where sewage is a problem. It impacts the water quality, which impacts the cost, and that cost is something that is directly correlated to what you're trying to do is by improving your revenue. For us, what we are trying to do is work you through these basic facets. We want to be able to work you through the major impacting components. Brittany, I don't know what happened here. It's cut out a lot of the screens. But if you look at it, we take all of that information and we then summarize, and I saw in the second presentation, the asset management is also extremely important. Now, do we have a list of all the assets in Kenya? I'm sure we have a list, right? Do we know what the condition of those assets are? I can tell you right now, from the countries that I've traveled in, we know where they are. We know what they're supposed to be. But if I had to ask you to pinpoint right now what the water treatment plant's performance looks at right now, Director, can you open your phone and give me the water treatment plant's performance in Nairobi right now? It's impossible. And this is what our asset management software technology comes. We take all of these layers, we take the below the ground infrastructure review, we take the structural review, we take the information in the operation improvement to reduce the cost, and we put it into an asset management package where we are then able to collate all of that information into managing your revenue, to manage your revenue management, how we manage your customer relationship, that call center that comes into it, and then be able to deploy infrastructure and services and demarcate boundaries as per the regions or the sectors that we need to be able to do. And I want to give you a quick example of what it looks like in South Africa. In South Africa, we have done the asset management software for the entire country, where we mapped out every water treatment plant and every wastewater treatment plant in the country, and we are able to then define it down to the actual pump that is working or not working. Give us a second. I'm applying patience, my friend. I am really applying patience. Are we pointing it at the wrong place? Brittany, can we not just on the computer skip to the next slide, please? Is it frozen? Technical difficulties, we apologize, guys. Skip 2 slides there, Brittany. Okay, while we wait for them to resolve the technical issue, we'll move on. So what the asset management software does is we take the layers of information and we bring it into a singular platform for you to then be able to use and make decisive decisions. So what the asset management software does is we are able to take and we map every single water treatment plant, every single wastewater treatment plant, every resource into a singular solution that then gives you the water balance of where the water is coming from, what the cost of the water is, what the cost of that distribution is, and then link that to the most important part, which is the revenue. So this is an example of what our wastewater treatment plants in the country of South Africa looks like. Across all the provinces, we have defined them per province, per municipal. Brittany, we can skip to the next one. We are able to classify them into what type of technologies do we have so that we can then train and make sure that the responsiveness per sector, per area has the right skill sets for it. So if it's an MBBR, if it's a traditional sewage treatment plant, if it's a more traditional wetlands, we can then train the people how to respond to that. Brittany, the next slide, please. And what we're able to do, and if you look at the left, we take you from a national view of the assets that you have as a country or as a province or as a county, and we move you into how many assets you have within the surrounding capital areas. And we pinpoint to, if you look at the far right, you'll be able to see that we are able to pinpoint what the service history, what the service, the spares to each of those components are, if they're working or not working at any given time. All of those facets are so extremely important to be able to pinpoint what the cost of that deployment is as we try and reduce the expenditure to improve revenue. Now, why is the revenue conversation so important? We didn't come to this conference as a water leak conference. It's a non-revenue because we need to be contributing to the fiscus. We need to be contributing to the upgrades of the cities. We need to be able to manage that infrastructure deployment so that we can ultimately contribute to the economic feasibility of the country. So this is just what it looks like at a per plant basis. And that is the last facet of the technology that we supply to the 4 tiers. Brittany, I think if there's one more slide, if we can just go down. For us, we have defined a smart city slightly different, and I hope we can see that. The smart cities we talk about is not ICT. The smart city is not having access to internet or a bus that's electric. The smart city that we define is a city that has the basic requirements to deliver to the people what they need. Does it make sense? People need water. People need to pay as little as possible for the water they consume at the highest quality. Can we agree to that? And that is what we are here to do. And for us, it cannot be a cost center continuously, because that is what non-revenue is, and not just in Kenya. I have to say this, it's a global problem. If you look at the percentages, even in America, they are battling with the same. If you look at the percentages outside of Kenya, in South Africa, it is the same. What we are doing is coming together like this, at conferences like this, is to talk about it and how do we get to a point of action. And I think with that, I would like to thank you for the time, through the difficulties technically, and my ability not to convert to Kenya shillings. We appreciate you listening to me at this moment in time. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much, Gideon. Let's give him a better round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Because Gideon also represents Acumen Group. Our sincere appreciation to Acumen Group, our platinum sponsor, not only for supporting this conference, but also for partnering with utilities across Africa in developing solutions to reduce non-revenue water. And that is exactly what our next conversation is about. Innovations, technologies, and market opportunities to accelerate non-revenue water reduction. You've heard about the technologies shaping the future of utility management. Now, it's time to hear from the very people who bring or apply those ideas to the ground. This next panel brings together utility leaders, innovation experts, and even technology partners who are approaching the very same challenge, but from very different perspectives. Now, allow me to introduce my panelists on stage so that we don't stand between you and your lunch now. Our first panelist is Engineer James Ng'ang'a. Is here with us. Engineer James Ng'ang'a is the Managing Director of Nakuru Water and Sanitation Services Company, NAWASCO. Give him a round of applause. Remember, Nakuru County is the host utility for this particular conference. Also joining us on stage is CPA Dr. Lawrence Tanui, the Managing Director, Eldoret Water and Sanitation Company, ELDOAS. Let's give him a round of applause. Dr. Tanui has led one of Kenya's fastest growing utilities so far, championing financial sustainability and even customer service. Also joining us for this next panel is Mr. Cleophas Agingu. Is he here with us? Mr. Cleophas Agingu is the General Manager of Runda Water Limited. It is a utility recognized for delivering high-quality water services through modern utility management. Let's give him a round of applause. Is Mr. Cleophas Agingu here with us? He is not. All right. We're also pleased to welcome Engineer Peter Kahutu. Is he here with us? There he is. He is the Managing Director of Nyeri Water and the Sanitation Company, Nyewasco. Under his leadership, Nyewasco has consistently ranked among Kenya's top performing service providers, particularly when it comes to issues of non-revenue water. Let's give him a round of applause. And finally, we have Miss Sophia Baranes. She is the project lead, WASH, at the Nura Global Innovation Lab, whose work focuses on accelerating innovative solutions that strengthen water, sanitation, and hygiene services across Kenya. And let's give them another round of applause as they all take their seats. Now, guiding this conversation is a familiar face, perhaps for many of us in the WASH sector, someone with an extensive experience in supporting sanitation innovation, utility transformation, as well as inclusive service delivery across the region. Please put your hands together as we welcome a Country Director for Fresh Life Zambia, Mr. Meltus Mugomi. Let's give him a round of applause, please.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I think there was one of the panelists that name was not mentioned. I am aware that there's a representative of MD Nairobi Water. Please join us. Is he present? Okay, great. Thank you. Great. Pretty powerful discussions and presentations so far. I think Engineer Lima, I have to admit, I was juggling between taking my notes, my calculator, and also ChatGPT, trying to understand most of the technicalities, but it was a very powerful educational presentation. Also, Acumen, just the role of technology and, governance in solving non-revenue water issues. So plenary 2 is on innovations, technologies, and market opportunities to accelerate non-revenue water reduction. I think the magic number here is we've also been, I think Michelle actually made us do a chorus on the percentage of non-revenue levels that were in the impact report, between 42 to 47%. Just to put it in context, the global best practice is below 20%. So quite an uphill task for us to look at ways and technologies to try to regulate and manage our non-revenue water levels. Also, I think one of the key things that I've learned from the presentations and discussions is that non-revenue water is not simply technical problem. It is a business challenge, it's a governance challenge, it is a climate resilience challenge, and increasingly now it's becoming an investment opportunity. So the discussions today with the utility and innovators is to actually discuss on not only just on technology, but how then do we scale the solutions? How do utilities justify investments? What business model work? And how do we create partnerships between utilities, innovators, financials, and technology providers? So thank you very much. My first question would go to Engineer Ng'ang'a, MD Nakuru Water. How has Nakuru Water balanced rapid urban growth with non-revenue water reduction, and which interventions have delivered the greatest impact in improving both water availability and utility revenues?
Thank you very much for that question. We, as Nakuru Water, we sit in a city that has a rapidly growing population. And at the same time, the city is a water scarce city. 95% of the water supply to the city comes from boreholes. So when you have a fixed volume of water and a growing population, you have a huge challenge on your hand. So that calls on efficiency in terms of your network and ensuring that every drop that you produce from your well fields stays in the pipe network. And therefore, this speaks to the issue of non-revenue water. So then how do we go around trying to put that water, to make sure that that water is in the pipe? One of the issues is responding very quickly to reported leaks. I mean, approximately 30 WhatsApp groups that are created by our customers. And my staff are also in those groups. So when a leak is reported, we quickly get into it, work on it, and post back a video on those WhatsApp group back to our customers. In that way, then, we have a spiral effect. They continuously tell us where you have issues because we carry along with them. The other issue is on the workmanship. When we go and repair, then we have to do it correctly so that we don't repeat that job. Using the correct materials, the correct people, the correct staff, so training of my staff again, that particular aspect. Other things we do around it is, of course, pressure management, so that we know where we need to tweak the network, for example, in terms of pressure reducing valves, reduce the instances of leaks. We've also leveraged on technologies such as ArcGIS to know where our assets are, and that helps us when our staff are going to repair a certain pipe. They already know the depth of that pipe, the material required, and therefore the turnaround time in terms of repairing that particular leak improves. On the customer's perspective also, we proactively carry along our customers, for example, in terms of water saving tips. One of the ones that we put across all the time is that when they are brushing their teeth in the morning, instead of letting the tap run, they should put water in a glass and brush with that water. So that would save water and have water used by other people instead of it getting into the sink and into a sewer system. Again, for non-core activities of water, for example, in our public schools, we've also encouraged rainwater harvesting so that they can use that water for cleaning purposes or for flushing their toilets. But the bottom line is, you can apply all the technologies that are out there, all technical fixes, like DMAs, pressure management, smart metering. But if your staff, the behavioral change of your staff is not good, or you've not made that culture across the entire institution that non-revenue water is everybody's business, then that dial on non-revenue water and your revenues will not improve. So for me, I think technology is good, but it's as good as the people using it. And people using it, it's a behavior change. And a gospel that has to be preached across the entire Nakuru Water Company, that even the cleaner cleaning our toilet, if they come across a leak, it's their responsibility to report to the next person who is supposed to repair that, so that that culture is established across the institution. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, MD. My next question is to MD Engineer Kahutu, MD Nyeri Water. So Nyeri has often been recognized for strong utility performance. I think the only utility that has challenged you effectively has been Nakuru Water. So what role have data, district metering areas, that's DMAs, and proactive asset management played in reducing non-revenue water? And what advice would you give utilities just beginning this journey? Engineer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mogomi. It's a good question for Nyeri. And we have walked a journey, and as we were getting presented to us in the morning about the MEWA's journey, equally for Nyeri, in 2006, we are ranking, or rather our non-revenue was about 47%. The only difference maybe between MEWAS and Nyewasco is we haven't had a partner per se, so a lot of institutional arrangement has been made for us to be where we are. We have several approaches, and data is key, critical, very critical, data integrity. Because for sure, I talked about bottom-up, where you start with sub-zones, because by the end of the day, actions happens in the zones. So you are deliberate in those years, in around 2006 or thereabout, to establish some DMAs and then also sub-DMAs, where we were able to do 100% water installation for the meter installation for all our consumers. Out of that, we are able to take note, or rather, to quantify how much water we are losing in each and every zone. The other important aspect is also aspect of culture, and I think I had mentioned about it, bringing everybody on board, where we involve everybody, and to ensure non-revenue is everybody's business. And from the consumer, from the board, from the county, from the staff, and any other stakeholder, we take their feedback very seriously. Then once we are able to pick this data from these sub-zones and zones, we analyze. That is a very, very also important success factor. We read on daily basis. We have over 300 DMA meters, which we read on daily basis, and we are able to analyze. And then you are able to make what we call informed decision making. The other aspect is also in terms of maintenance, committing enough resources. That is the aspect of budgeting. At the start of each and every year, we ensure you have adequate resources for upgrades, for realignments and such, and for installation or for procurement of quality materials in terms of pipes and meters. Then also taking the aspect of human resource critically. We do training, capacity building to ensure that staffs who are involved, because we have a unit which is in charge of non-revenue water management, staff are trained and well capacity built to ensure that we are able to move together as a team. So in a nutshell, that is what I would highlight. There is so much to it. But when you look at it again, all the same, we don't do so much differently than any other WSP. There's the aspect of that commitment, everybody taking part to it, and also a lot of support from all the stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer. My next question is to the representative of Martin, MD, Nairobi City Water. So the question is, managing non-revenue water in a large metropolitan system like Nairobi presents unique complexity. How are emerging technologies helping Nairobi City Water tackle large-scale physical and commercial losses, and where do you see the biggest opportunity for future improvement?
Thank you very much. My name is Josiah Gitu. I'm the commercial director representing the MD. Just to start with, I don't know the relationship between scarcity and non-revenue water, because it looks like those who have more lose less, and those who have less lose more. That is something we need to think about. Nairobi, as you say, is a very complex city with all its challenges and dynamics. But what we've done is, first of all, to segment Nairobi into 8 regions and 1 that just deals with issues to do with informal settlement. That has helped us to deploy the technologies that we are using. First, to start with, is to appreciate that for us, while others are talking about the pressure reducing valve, we may not have that much water to address the issues of technical losses per se. For us, we have identified commercial as the greatest challenge for us. And so we appreciate that we have quite a number of illegal connections. Therefore, we engage the customers through various platforms. What we've done is, first of all, to map all our customers through a GIS platform so we know where they are. We are using the data analytics to help us analyze the consumption for these consumers. In the most recent past, we have introduced smart metering for the large consumers. For example, one of our large consumers, we just put a meter and we realized that we were able to save about 7% of that. So that was quite significant. For the water we getting to Nairobi is coming from about 60 kilometers from the city. So we have to put the bulk meters along the transmission line just to make sure that we are getting the water produced to the city. So that has already been deployed and it's helping us manage the issues of non-revenue water. Other solutions that looks pretty easy and simple is the issues to do with the meter reading. If you don't get your meters read correctly, then the rest of the story doesn't apply. So we have deployed smart meter reading that is embedded with GIS, so we know where the meter reader has gone to read the meter, and we are able to transmit that with a photo, so as evidence of where you actually took the readings. Other technologies that we have put in place for the informal settlement is the automated water dispensers. First of all is to make sure that the water is available to all, eliminating the cartels, those that would obviously sell water to consumers at a higher price. And of course, those ones are also the first culprits in terms of getting illegal connections. So by deploying automated water dispensers, that has also helped us. We have other initiatives that we have put on matters technical, like we are deployed water leak detection van that goes around the city, just scouting for the vans, very equipped with the modern technology, and that has really helped us. Moving forward is that there is quite a lot in terms of partnership. In the area of smart metering, we believe that this is an area we have identified the large consumers that we would want to bring on board the smart metering aspect because of what we have. The pilot has already shown us that some of those customers, if you deploy the smart metering, then you are able to recoup your revenue. The return on investment in some of those, we've seen it can even be less than a month for some. We also accept that we need to address the issues of infrastructure with quite a number of spaghetti, what you'd call spaghetti, non-structured infrastructure. So we did a pilot in one of the areas where we did a full reticulation of the area and metering, and we were able to move the non-revenue for that area from 55 to 45 in a very short time, less than a year, which is quite significant. So there's quite a lot of areas that we can collaborate, and we see technology as the way to help us move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commercial Director. And my next question is to CPA Dr. Tanui, MD Eldoret Water. As a utility leader with a strong financial management background, how do you build the business case for investing in non-revenue water reduction technologies, and how do you measure return on investment? Daktari.
Thank you so much, Maltas. Like you've said rightly, that NRW is not merely a technical issue. It's a financial issue, a governance issue, and ultimately a sustainability issue. Because every cubic meter of treated water that does not generate revenue, actually cost has been spent. From the over 15 billion that we lose in non-revenue, we can confidently say that out of that, all the industry would have spent almost 14 to 14.5 billion in cost that is not recoverable. this alone, if we were to reduce NRW, definitely we will get that return because we will have already invested in cost. We've seen a lot of investments and technology that we've had from the presenters. We're talking about the smart metering, the DMA, the advanced leak detections, and it is costly. And the question that we ask ourselves is, will this investment enable us to recover more value than it costs over the lifetime of the life cycle of the investment that we've done? And return on investment, we are looking at the invested cost versus are we getting the return? Or when are we going to recoup that amount that we've invested? Allow me to use an example of Eldoas. That recently we've implemented a program from WSTF, the CLSG2, where we've invested almost 500 million in smart metering, around 13,000 units smart meters and 37,000 smart enabled. These meters, the smart meters, the game changer that actually we've been able to see is getting the intelligent alarm systems, where we are saying we are getting the alarm system from the smart meters into our system and managing the information from the smart meters, we can be able to make decisions. One of the issues that we've seen and the benefits that we've been able to see is that there have been an increased volume, bill volume, which means we've gotten increased revenue from that. There is also customer satisfaction because we are able to advise the customers on the best way to be able to manage the water losses within themselves. We've also been able to identify where there is manipulation from the customer's side. And out of this, from the DMAs that we are running, we are able to identify areas where we've reduced NRW from as high as 40 to now 10. From that alone, you can be able to see that out of that, from the financial point of view, we've been able to calculate and see that we've been able to get extra revenue. What now we are calling new money. I know Acumen was saying there is new money that we are receiving. We've actually gotten new money from that intervention. And if you be able to look at it, there are some DMAs that if we, with proper management, we can be able to see the investment cost on those meters. We can be able to recover between 4 to 8 months on that. So it shows that there is an opportunity to be able to invest and recover this money. And it is possible. Finalizing, there is, if you look at the OCCR of Eldoret, the conditions of the CLSG2 was that we moved from 97% to 103. With the implementation of this, we've actually moved to 145%. So which means it translates that we've been able to recover the cost.
Thank you, Doctor. Lastly but not least, we've heard from the utility leaders. I would like to speak to a very key stakeholder, Noveta, and somebody who would like to be, partnering with such entities. Ms. Sophia Baroness, I pronounced that well, who's the project lead WASH for Nura Global. So my question to you is, how can Israel's innovations in smart metering, leak detection, and digital water management through partnerships like the Nura Global Innovation Lab be adopted and scaled in Kenya and sub-Saharan Africa to accelerate non-revenue water reduction?
Thank you. Okay, first of all, are we alive? Are we half alive? Tough crowd, tough crowd. Okay, so my name is Sophia, and I'm representing Nura Global. This organization connects Israeli technologies with emerging markets across the world, and I'm leading our Water Access Catalyst program. So I'll start with saying that Israel averages between 7 and 10% non-revenue water. And there's a few reasons for this, but One of the main reasons that the Water Access Catalyst was created is because we don't believe that countries that need to be focusing on non-revenue water need to spend the next 50 to 70 years trying to innovate, come up with new technologies. This is what knowledge sharing is for. We believe that these technologies should be around the world. So we'll go to one thing, and that is that Israel is not a country of water. We don't actually have water. When the British told us in 1948, you have water for 1 million people. And here we are today, 10 million people, over 10 million people, and we have a water surplus. And this happened through a number of reasons, but one of them is the mindset shift. It's not trying to band-aid problems. It's a matter of national security. This is for your people. It's how you manage to get people together. So the way we do this, we have many technologies. The smart metering, which many of you have brought up today, for the commercial losses. We have the district level monitoring for the physical losses. And there is not a single person, not a single entity within our country that's not monitored. Again, as many people have said today, if you can't monitor it, you don't know what you're losing. So monitoring has been a massive part of where we are today. We also use the digital analytics analysis, which I really enjoyed Acumen's presentation. They really went into the details of what they do. That has been massive in Israel as well. And something else I want to bring up is the recycling of the wastewater that we use. The reason that this is important is because agriculture, and this is very relevant across sub-Saharan Africa as well, it used 70% of our water, of our drinking water. And now we use 92% of our wastewater for agriculture, which then takes off the pressure from the system. You're now changing the whole system to be for the people. You're separating agriculture from drinking water. So this was a huge thing as well in the last couple of years. Desalination as well, we have some of the lowest cost desalination across the globe. And that's because energy efficiency. The energy efficiency has allowed us to bring down our desalination cost from $1.50 per cubic meter to now 40 cents to 50 cents. I have to say in Israel, our water is not expensive. Across all of the utilities, water has become the cheapest, and that's because of the technology that we have. So the question isn't whether the technologies work. We know that they work. We've already piloted them. Our entire country is running off of them. The question is whether or not they can work in the sub-Saharan African context and in the Kenyan context, given the current situation with utilities. What is their budgets and what is their capacity? In my opinion, yes, I think that it definitely can fit. That's why we exist. That's why we're here today. And that's because we're changing the method of approach. And now, instead of it being a completely expensive, inaffordable system that you're buying, people have started now to change. These companies have changed how they're charging. They're now charging pay per use or by performance-based contracts. You're not buying a system anymore, you're buying results, you're buying the outcomes. And so that allows utilities to now adopt these technologies. And with that being said, the Water Access Catalyst exists now to be bridging all of those gaps. So we do everything from the market validation to the partnerships to the pilots, funding. We have funding both for pilots and for feasibility studies. We intend to bring delegations from Israel across sub-Saharan Africa and also our African partners to be coming to Israel so that you can see what the technology is there across the country. Of course, it differs from the north and the south, and we think it's really important that our partners get to see that firsthand. So this is the difference between piloting to prove a point. We know that the technology works. We don't need to pilot to prove a point. We're piloting to scale. And I think that closes what I want to say. I hope that we can partner. We want to bring our technology to you.
Thank you very much. I think we press for time. Do we have a time for a question, one or two? No time. So please, if you have any questions for any specific panelists, please just make sure that you're able to communicate that to the Secretariat and they'll be able to get the questions and respond. I think the opportunity before us is very significant, just based off of the discussions we've had here with the panelists, that by embracing innovation and leveraging technology wisely, investing in people, and also strengthening partnerships, we can actually accelerate more resilient and sustainable water utilities in Kenya and to a larger extent in Africa. Thank you very much. Let's appreciate the panelists.
Thank you very much, Melvin and the panel, for that very insightful discussion. Before you leave the stage, let's have the photographer take that group photo to remember this non-revenue water conference. It is a hope that when we're here next year, we'll be discussing many, many more positive things that have come out of this particular conference. As they take that picture, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. DJ, you can give us a bit of music. I have some good news now. We can actually go for lunch after the group photo is done. But as we do that, may I kindly ask all international delegates to please stand up. If you traveled from outside of Kenya to be here with us today, let's please be upstanding. If you traveled from outside of Kenya to be here today, any international delegates, let's please be upstanding. All right, ladies and gentlemen, these are the people who've traveled far and beyond across the region to be here with us. Let's give them all a round of applause. Now, I think it's only fair that in the spirit of African hospitality, that they're also the first to leave for lunch. So because of that, let's please have all our international delegates, led by the Acumen Group, leave through our VIP exit on my right. We have our ushers standing there in white, ready to escort you to your lunch area. Let's please leave using the VIP exit. Thank you very much. Now, the rest of us will also proceed for lunch at the main restaurant using the main exit. We'll all be back here at 2 p.m. sharp. 2 p.m. sharp as we begin our high-level session. Please also make your way to the exhibition area to see what is there. We will see you at 2 p.m. Enjoy your lunch.